Chapter 61. Plants vs Zombies. Of course, Lu Sen is not so cruel as to collect money from children. He asked Lupin to differentiate the products and launch deluxe, premium, and limited editions based on the ordinary home version. In fact, it is to make the little soldiers more refined. The weapons and armor are more beautiful. The regular version is similar to the wizard chess, with soldiers and weapons in black and white. The deluxe version has silver armor and weapons, the premium version has gold and silver, and the limited edition has diamond and ruby sapphire colors, and you can customize the patterns on the soldiers. The prices are 2 times, 5 times, and 10 times of the regular version. Is it expensive? What a reasonable price! The above are all portable home versions, and there are also commercial models specifically for pubs and coffee shops. The commercial model cannot be folded, but is larger and more sturdy. There are coin slots on both sides for both players to insert coins. The minimum investment is 2 coins to start playing. But if you invest 6 sickles, 10 sickles, and 1 galleon, you can choose the deluxe edition, premium edition, and limited edition skins respectively. There are too many proud drinkers and wizards who are confident in their skills in the tavern, so the income is quite considerable. There are 2 ways to order the commercial version. One is a buyout system, where the merchant directly pays to buy a commercial war chess machine to use in the store, and all the profits belong to the merchant. The second way is to use first and pay later. Galaxy Group gives it to you for free, and the game money obtained in the early stage is used to pay off the equipment costs, and the profits are shared in the later stage. Most merchants will choose the second one. No matter which one they choose, Galaxy Group will make a profit. Not only can it quickly occupy the market, it can also allow pubs and coffee shops to promote their products. Lupin, who had just trained several capable assistants in the construction department, had not even had a few days of sitting in the office peacefully before he had to work overtime to handle the growing chess and card business. On the other side, Lu Sen chats with Fireball Dragon almost every day, and many of the other parties' creative ideas make Lu Sen laugh and cry. For example, regarding wizard chess, he thought that the Muggle War game was a complete failure. Not only is it essentially the same as traditional wizard chess, the fighting method is still shield and sword, not magical at all. And there are too many rules, which makes it difficult for witches and young wizards who don't like fighting to like it. Why not design a game with a little more wizardry? For example, add elements such as resurrected zombies, vampires, and magical creatures. And it is best to start with an easy difficulty and gradually increase it. It would be even better if it can be played alone. This really reminded Lu Sen of a game that was popular all over the world in his previous life, Plants vs. Zombies. Doesn't this fit all the bill perfectly? The potential of this game cannot be ignored. It is not only suitable for all ages, but also very playable. Lu Sen organized his thoughts overnight. He thought that he could just apply the zombies directly, but he would need to think more carefully about plants. However, what the wizarding world has no shortage of are strange and bizarre magical creatures and plants. After the rules of the game and the basic plant species were determined, Lu Sen took out the communicator to contact Lupin. However, Lupin on the other end seemed very busy, so Lu Sen hung up the call after chatting for a few words and left a text message instead. Lu Sen didn't receive Lupin's reply until midnight. He had been running around lately, busy with the Muggle War chess business, and had no time to develop new products. Lu Sen thought about it and asked about some production techniques. After all, it is better to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish. To get the finished product, you can only rely on others, but learning the manufacturing method is a one-time solution. What's more, Lu Sen was not fighting alone. He went straight to the Weasley twins and told them his idea. The two were also experts in making props. After getting Lu Sen's complete manufacturing requirements and Lupin's technical guidance, the 3 of them tinkered with it for a week and finally developed the fantastic Plants vs. Zombies trial version. Unlike the physical version of the chess game, the 3 of them used a picture version this time. Using the principle of magic photos, draw all the scenes, plants, and zombies on paper. Then use the magic taught by Lupin to make them run according to the rules. The uncle who grows plants in the game was named Fabian by the twins, which is the name of the twins' uncle. They had had 2 uncles, but they had both died heroically fighting Death Eaters many years ago. The twins were worried that Lu Sen would not agree with such a name, but Lu Sen certainly would not object. Such a meaningful name is simply great. The uncle who fights against zombies was once a member of the Order of the Phoenix fighting on the front line. He fought against Death Eaters during his lifetime, and now he continues to defend his homeland in another way. Not only can it satirize the Death Eaters, but it can also commemorate Mrs. Weasley's brother. What's more, the catchphrase of the uncle in the previous life game is Phoebe Phoebe, Bobby Bobby, and other funny sounds. When the Weasley brothers saw that Lucien agreed to this proposal, they immediately decided that the share could be reduced this time. Lucien, oh my god! Are you two really that good at making money? When a product comes out, of course you have to find people to experience it. After trying it, Harry and Ron both said that they could play this game until graduation. However, Lucien thought of another candidate for the test. On the communicator, Lucien sent a message, "Don't say I'm not nice enough, brother. Give me an address and a recipient's name, and I'll mail you the first version of Plants vs. Zombies I just made." Fireball Dragon, really? You are such a nice brother. Much better than my brothers. As for the address, Lucien waited for a long time before the other party continued to send, "Just send it to Mrs. Weasley. She can pass it to me." Lucien didn't think much about it and thought that it might be because this guy's office was close to Mrs. Weasley. So Lucien snatched the game from Ron. Ron, whose brain had just been eaten by zombies, had a sad face. His resentful eyes gave Lucien, who was running far away, goosebumps all over his body. Fred teased, "Lucien, who are you sending it to in such a hurry?" George agreed tacitly, "Wow, don't ask nonsense, what if it's Lucien's girlfriend?" Fred pretended to be surprised and said, "No way? Didn't we reserve him for Ginny? He has already received a bribe from Ginny." George, "Oh, I forgot about that. I've been talking about Lucien all holiday since Romania." Fred, "Hey! I'm warning you. Don't be a heartless person. My little sister is very fierce." Lucien was used to the mischievous twins and knew they were joking, so he generously showed the recipient address. "Sanley Company, to Mrs. Weasley, please pass it on to the Fireball Dragon." He smiled and said, "Did you see it? It was mailed to a researcher at the Galactic Group. And it was forwarded by Mrs. Weasley. Are you relieved? You keep a close eye on me, you don't really want to be my brother-in-law, do you? Ha ha ha." However, the twins were both stunned when they saw the message, and Ron, who came over, also gasped. The expressions of the three changed, with surprise and joy, and they exchanged glances with each other. The whole process was quite quiet. "George, Lucien, we were just joking about the commission. It's better not to have it." "Lucien, what's going on?" Chapter 62. After receiving the game Fantastic Plants vs. Zombies, Fireball Dragon became very frugal with words. Often Lucien wrote several sentences, but the other party would take a long time to reply with a few words. Lucien sent, "Are you there? Have you played it? Give me a review. Is it fun?" Fireball Dragon, "Okay, pretty simple." Lucien, "Just an okay review? Please give me your professional review. Is the magical plant I designed good?" Half an hour later, Fireball Dragon, "Oh no. I was just eaten." Such chats made Lucien extremely irritated, and it was not until 3 days later that the other party became normal. Fireball Dragon, "I cleared the level. The magical plants are so cute. I want to plant them in my garden too." Lucien, "Haha. It's not easy to see you praising others. By the way, you haven't been playing games these days, have you?" Fireball Dragon, "Yes. It's none of your business." Lucien, "Haha. How dare you slack off during work hours?" Fireball Dragon, "Tisk. Aren't you also doing tricks during class?" "Same here." Lucien was very happy to have such a netizen, who actually made him regain the feeling of being able to speak freely on Penguin. In addition to chatting online to relieve boredom, there is another happy thing: Lucien found a partner for morning exercises. At first, Harry and Ron were the first to express their envy of Lucien's physical fitness and wanted Lucien to teach them. But after only 2 days of morning exercises, they all raised their hands in surrender, vowing to defend their beds to the death. Even though Lucien told them that they would be reborn as long as they persisted for a month, they still refused to practice. But surprisingly, on the morning of the 3rd day, Neville, who had been silent all the time, got up early and mustered up the courage to ask to be taken. So when Lucien was doing morning exercises, there was a little fat man behind him. The physical fitness of young wizards is generally low, except for a few who lack wisdom in their brains and only have muscles. For example, Crabbe and Goyle, and the members of the Slytherin Quidditch team. Most wizards would pant heavily after running a few steps, but that was normal. All kinds of problems in life could be solved with magic, so who would bother exercising? But what's funny is that these noobs just love to use their fists to resolve disputes. Whether they are young wizards or adult wizards, they all seem to think that as long as they don't take out their wands, it's just a minor fight. After all, physical injuries can be healed in minutes with medical magic. Whether they admit it or not, the physical magic of fists is often faster and more direct. Neville's physical condition was much lower than the average of the young wizards. He started panting as soon as he and Lucien walked to the edge of the Black Lake. The first task Lucien gave him was to jog to increase his metabolism and activate his cardiopulmonary function. Lucien ran 3 laps while Neville only finished 1 lap. The second step is stretching. If you want to be healthy, don't forget to stretch. In addition to stretching your bones and muscles, stretching can also promote the metabolism of creatine and relieve fatigue from jogging. Let's start the 4th set of National Radio Gymnastics exercises. The 3rd step. China's standard elementary school student bodybuilding boxing. Come, follow me. After a set of morning exercises, Neville was so exhausted that he could not walk back to the castle if Lucien had not pasted him a light body talisman. Neville, you have to control your sugar intake in the future. Eat more meat and eggs. Supplement protein. Eat more vegetables to increase dietary fiber intake. Exercise must be accompanied by a scientific diet structure. Lucien said to Neville, who was eating voraciously in the morning. Seeing how hungry the fat boy was, Harry and Ron were glad that they didn't continue exercising. They whispered to each other and bet that he wouldn't be able to last more than 2 days. But Neville's tenacity exceeded their expectations. Although he was exhausted every day and could never remember the key points of the movements, he still gritted his teeth and persevered. A week later, Neville had successfully passed the most difficult stage, and he could run and box without getting so tired that he couldn't lift his arms. Thanks to this, Neville became much more confident and smiled more often. Lucien often sends a few text messages to Harris Fireball Dragon during morning exercises. After all, I get up early, so others can't expect to sleep well. Lucien said before dawn, don't sleep. Get up and pee. After taking Neville to the Black Lake, he said, it's a nice day today, how about taking a run? At first, the Fireball Dragon would just mumble back, ah. Are you annoying? Get lost. Fireball Dragon is also a ruthless guy. After being bombarded with text messages by Lucien over and over again, he actually learned to get up early. Lucien, get up and pee. Fireball Dragon replied immediately, yeah, I'm peeing. Don't waste time. Lucien, we are going to start boxing. Are you going to lie down again? If you are so lazy, you may not be able to get married in the future. Fireball Dragon, haha. I ran around the house 3 times. I even played with the flying broom. I heard that someone couldn't learn to ride a broom. Ha ha ha, so stupid. No more chatting, I'm going to go back and catch up on my beauty sleep. Haha. Why should I get married? Marrying a wife is not as fun as flying a broom? Oh, I hurt your self-esteem again. Lucien, haha. Who said I can't do it? Tell me, I promise I won't beat him to death. You still sleep for beauty? I'm dying of laughter. Do you think you are a girl? Haha. Fireball Dragon, go to hell, you idiot who can't even fly a broom, stop talking. Lucien, isn't it just flying? I have plenty of ways to fly. In addition to the pain point of his extremely low talent for flying broomstick, Lucien was even more bothered by not being able to use the Thunder Wand freely. After meeting the administrator Filch again, Lucien checked his magic spray gun and asked about his experience using it. The feedback has been very good. The Energy Storage Multifunction Directional Magic Semi-Automatic Releaser has been working well in the past few months. Filch no longer has to scrub the floor with a wire brush. You can also fight back against the pranks set by little wizards using magic. Since the magic bullets used were specially made and had magic stored in them in advance, the magic spray gun would have to enchant the empty bullets again after the magazine was emptied. But Filch can always find hard labor, such as the little wizards he caught violating the rules. Therefore, a new punishment method was added to the old administrator: recharge his magic bullet. If it is a senior wizard, filling dozens of magic bullets is just a matter of minutes. But for first and second year wizards whose magic power is generally low, this punishment is as daunting as cleaning the metal display room. Lu Sen, who once experienced an excessive outburst of magic power, has a deep understanding of this. Of course, Lu Sen's magic reserves are definitely much stronger than those of ordinary wizards of the same age. This is different from Western wizards who passively increase their magic reserves by mastering ancient magic runes and practicing magic. The Chinese pay more attention to the cultivation of magic or magic power. They breathe and meditate before going to bed every day, they strengthen their bodies through boxing and sword practice, and they constantly deepen and meticulously study the knowledge of magic. Using a series of scientific and reasonable methods to continuously condense essence, qi, and spirit, let the three progress together, and transform the surging mana into Denshin, Qi, Beihui, and other acupoints. I don't know how much better this is than the West. Lu Sen's current magic power is about the same as 5 Harrys, 6 Rons, and 4 Hermiones. After Filch's prototype device was fully verified, Lu Sen assembled a small research team to further utilize this design concept. Several people gathered in an abandoned classroom. Lu Sen knocked on the blackboard and said, "Guys, I have a new idea." The twins and Cedric looked at each other, already accustomed to Lu Sen's strange ideas. He continued, "The magic spray was a great success. It's working very stably in Filch's hands. We can now proceed to the next plan. Everyone, please look at the blackboard." As Lu Sen spoke, he controlled a few pieces of chalk to write and draw quickly. Soon, several simple design drawings were sketched out. Cedric took a closer look and said, "If I'm not mistaken, this thing is called a pistol, right? A Muggle weapon." Lu Sen nodded and said, "It looks like the classic pistol in the Muggle world, the M1911. Exquisite and reliable. What we want to do is to miniaturize the magic spray gun and make it like the M1911. It's more convenient to carry around. Isn't it cool?" But apart from feeling novelty, the children who grew up in the magic world all thought that the appearance of the sprayer was more domineering. Fred and George were very interested in the working principle and power of the pistol. Lu Sen introduced, "The lethality of a gun comes from the bullet inside. The power from the explosion of explosives pushes the bullet head, shoots out quickly, and then penetrates the enemy. However, small firearms don't have many bullets, a pistol has about 10 rounds, and a rifle has about 30 rounds." Lu Sen's narration was neither professional nor vivid, but the 3 little wizards were stunned and didn't understand it at all, but they found it quite interesting. Lu Sen himself thought of a question, "You say, if we add the copy double magic to the magazine, wouldn't we have an infinite desert eagle?" Damn it! This idea scared Lu Sen, but some of his friends didn't quite understand what this concept was. Temporarily suppressing his excitement, Lu Sen introduced, "Put this aside for now, I have another idea." "Why are you looking at me like that? This time it's not a weapon. Really? It's protective gear. Automatically activated armor spell shield. Actively defend when encountering magical attacks. Modified using the principles of Quidditch protective clothing, strengthen the energy storage device and automatic activation device, blah blah. The third research project is flying props. I want to make some props that can fly flexibly without a broomstick. Look here. Flying backpacks. Flying boots. Power armor. Blah blah blah." Half an hour later, Fred exclaimed, "Wow! I don't know what's wrong with your little brain. There are so many strange things in it." George continued, "That's right. This is very similar to these two." "Fred, that's right. If you're not from the same family, you won't enter the same door." The 2 brothers fist bumped in tacit agreement, which made Lu Sen laugh and cry, "What do you mean we are a family? We are good brothers, but why is it that being a family is a bit weird?" "George, stop pretending. We all know." Lu Sen was full of question marks. "Know what?" "Fred, hey? You really are pretending." All right. As your elder brother, I won't ask any more questions about your affairs, haha." Lu Sen was a little panicked, but he didn't know what was wrong. Another week passed, and Fireball's enthusiasm for Plants vs. Zombies gradually waned, and he complained about whether there could be more levels. Lu Sen then asked the other party to hand over the game that he had played enough to Lupin, and he would modify it when he was free. About 2 weeks later, Lupin contacted Lu Sen, and he finally found time to sit in the office. He had been running around outside recently, busy with the business of the Muggle War. Lupin was very surprised after watching Plants vs. Zombies. He didn't expect Lu Sen and a few students to make such a complicated thing. It's a bit like making a Marauders map when he was in school. However, the Plants vs. Zombies made by Lu Sen and others still has many shortcomings, such as many loopholes in the stability of the game and the harmony of internal magic. Lu Sen told Lupin about more levels and plants that would be added to the game, and hung up the call when Lupin was about to go crazy. I believe that a more complete version will be created by Lupin soon. Chapter 63. This chapter is about Lu Sen doing experiments. Those who are interested in magic wands can eat them. Those who are not interested can quickly turn over. When the final battle comes, everyone will understand why the Thunder Wand is sealed. The professors have a deep intention. And I promise you in advance that it will be unsealed in the second year, so you can enjoy it as you like. Since arriving at Hogwarts, Lu Sen first chopped the ghost and then blew up the house. The series of accidents directly led to the sealing of the Thunder Wand. Although Lu Sen turned a blessing in disguise by discovering that the sealed wand under the effect of the sealing chain could allow him to feel the magic circuit more clearly and greatly increase the speed of learning magic. But it is a learning machine after all. Apart from a limited number of lighting spells, it is usually more convenient to have an unlimited magic wand with you. After reluctantly starting the wand-making business, Lu Sen gave the first trial-made wand to Ron. The other party found it quite easy to use, and it was much better than the second-hand magic wand his brother gave him. After this success, Lu Sen also produced a batch of experimental models, with different thicknesses and lengths. Although it is slightly inferior to the Thunder Wand, it is better than having no wand at all. Not only was the magic sprayer verified within a few months, the first batch of magic wand prototypes he produced also underwent sufficient experiments, accumulating valuable experience for the wand-making industry. In the second stage of wand-making, Lu Sen plans to experiment with more combinations. Hagrid helped to collect some of the materials, and bought some in Diagon Alley. He got several dragon-related items that were not available on the market through Ron's second brother Charlie. Every wand maker has his own recipe. For example, Ollivander only uses unicorn tail hair, phoenix tail feathers and dragon nerves as the core material. The previous few magic wands that Lu Sen used were all made of branches of the Whomping Willow combined with unicorn tail hair. The Whomping Willow is a very rare magical plant. It is well known that it has a bad temper. Even if a bird flies over its territory, it will be mercilessly hit by its willow branches. And then it will be killed on the spot. You can imagine the magic wand made of its willow branches. The casting feeling is called brutal. Even if the peaceful and pure unicorn tail hair is used as the wand core, it still feels full of fire. This batch of wands is particularly suitable for performing offensive magic such as shattered into pieces and smashed into pieces. However, they are a bit too radical for magic that requires subtle control and continuous operation. Different combinations of wood and core will give the wand many distinctive characteristics. Master Ollivander's approach is to let the wand choose its owner. The advantage of this is that the wand and the wizard can be highly matched, and one wand can be used in all scenarios. Although this is stable, Lu Sen feels it is a pity to abandon so many distinctive combinations for the sake of balance. Children only do multiple choice questions, but adults of course want everything. I don't require full scene matching, isn't it enough to use the right wand for the right purpose? I don't want your heart, as long as you do your job well in the position you are good at. And what about the matching degree? Do you know about the Chinese art of controlling things? Working hard is your job. Feelings can be cultivated slowly. Work first, then talk. Hey 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 hey. The evil smile Lu Sen inadvertently revealed made the three roommates take a step back at the same time. A few days later, a row of brand new wands appeared. A row. In appearance, these wands are exactly the same except for the wood grain and color. There are no carvings or decorations, just plain and simple. The rounded front half of the wand is polished to be smooth and delicate, and feels excellent. The back part is processed into a square shape, which makes it more stable to hold and will not roll off when placed on the table. The whole design is consistent with the myth of the Chinese Tianyuan square. Slender and straight. Round front and square back, perfect in line with ergonomics and engineering mechanics. Simply put, the appearance is exactly the same as the traditional Chinese chopsticks. That's right. The long chopsticks used for eating hot pot. Chopstick number 1, no, magic wand number 1. Made of poplar wood, with the stinger of a Hungarian horntail as the core. The overall look is elegant and snow white, just like ivory. Aspen is a classic wand-making material with great magic guiding properties, making it perfect for combat magic. The book records that in the 18th century there was a dueling club. They called themselves the Silver Spears and only allowed wizards with poplar wands to join. As one of the most ferocious dragons, the Hungarian treepeak's tailthorn is hard and magical, with the magical effect of breaking armor. It is one of the most offensive parts of its body. Magic Wand number 2, with an alder body and a thestral tail hair as the core. Alder is the most suitable wood for casting silent spells. And magical creatures like the thestrals are usually invisible. Only wizards who have seen death can see them. Lu Sen really wanted to buy some invisible beast hair, but that thing was out of stock, so he had to settle for the next best thing and found the thestral. The effect is also very good. When using this magic wand to cast a silent spell, even the magic fluctuations are very weak. It's simply murder and robbery, cough cough, it's really low-key, luxurious and cool. Number 3 Magic Wand, Beech Body, Hagrid's hair as the core. Beech is a tall, strong, cold-resistant, and very tough tree. Its magical properties are exactly the opposite of alder wood. A wand made of it cannot cast silent spells. It is suitable for large-scale magic. In order to maximize this feature, Lu Sen considered using the giant monster's hair, but the smell was too strong, and Lu Sen had once broken one in the women's restroom, which made him feel nauseous just thinking about it. So Lu Sen found Hagrid, and under the pretext of giving Weasley a magic hairdressing device, he borrowed a handful of the half-giant's hair. You can't go wrong with this one if you want to cast powerful magic. When not using the Thunder Wand. Number 4, Birchwood with unicorn tail hair. The birch is a sacred and graceful tree, one of the oldest species of trees besides the mysterious elder. Its branches are widely used in rituals such as exorcism and exorcism. However, Ollivander does not usually use birch trees. The holy unicorn tail hair is matched with the birch tree, which is perfect for exorcising evil spirits. Although it is a dozen hairpin bends short of the Thunder Wand, it can be used at will. Number 5, Firwood combined with the hair of an elderly cat girl. The wand made of firwood was called the Survivor by Ollivander's grandfather, because his 3 customers who used firwood wands had encountered fatal dangers and were unscathed. At the same time, this wand is particularly suitable for casting transformation spells. In order to match such a magic wand, Lu Sen racked his brains but couldn't think of any creature that is good at transformation. Except werewolves and boggarts that have no fixed form. But he knew someone who was good at transformation. So Lu Sen picked up a few cat hairs from the podium where Professor McGonagall often transformed. Apart from anything else, this wand is very stable when performing transfiguration. Number 6, Hawthorn wood paired with Phoenix Nirvana Grey. Gregorovitch, one of the 3 great staff makers in Europe, believes that the hawthorn tree is a complex and contradictory tree. Its leaves have a healing effect, but the smell of its branches is poisonous. So just like the characteristics of the tree, wands made of this material are very suitable for casting healing magic, but also very suitable for casting curse magic. Phoenix is a fascinating and magical creature that has the property of immortality. When its life comes to an end, it will turn into ashes in the flames, but soon new life will be reborn from the ashes. And start a new life journey. Its nirvana ash is stained with this magical and contradictory nature, with both death and rebirth. Contradictory and magical. Sponsored by a principal. So needless to say, this wand is used for healing. Or, to bring death and curse to the enemy. Number 7, Ashwood combined with the abdominal scales of the Ukrainian iron belly dragon. The Rowanwood wand is one of the most popular wands, and its greatest feature is its extremely high protective properties. The defensive magic cast with it is even more indestructible. When paired with the highly defensive Ukrainian iron belly dragon's scales, the defensive magic bonus will be even better. Number 8 Silver basswood paired with Lu Sen's own hair. This wood was very fashionable in the 19th century. Not only was it beautiful and elegant, it was also very suitable for wizards who were good at legilimency and prophecy. Although Lu Sen has just started practicing legilimency, and his predictions are completely based on his understanding of the plot, these are not important. Just do it. I may not know how to do it, but I can't live without it. Lu Sen also made a rotating wand sheath to wear around the waist, which can hold up to 12 wands. It doesn't matter if there are some empty ones, I will make them later. More is better. When you want to cast a certain type of magic, just think about it, and under the control of the Chinese object control technique, the corresponding magic wand will pop out of its sheath and you can get it with your hand. For example, if you want to cast a transfiguration spell, you can just wave your hand and the fur wand will come out. If you want to use offensive magic, you can use the aspen wand. If you want to use defensive magic, you can use the rowan wand. Just thinking about it makes me feel happy. Chapter 64. Having made so many magic wands for myself, I certainly can't be stingy with my friends. First up was Neville, the shyest of the roommates, who was given a chestnut wand with the hair of a three-headed dog. Kuriki are attracted to excellent animal trainers, natural flyers, or wizards with a high talent for herbology. The three-headed dog is a rare and fierce magical creature. They are extremely loyal to their masters and friends, and are fearless of any enemy. At the same time, under their violent appearance, they also hide a delicate and poetic heart. This is perfect for Neville. After trying it, the fat boy found that the levitation and transformation spells that he had trouble using before became smooth and silky. The spell casting process went so smoothly that Neville couldn't believe it, and even thought that Lu Sen had stored magic power that did not belong to him. Ron's experimental stick was also remade. The previous willow was too tough for Ron, so Lu Sen changed the material to willow wood this time and matched it with the thing Ron feared the most, spider silk. When Ron was a child, his brothers used spiders to tease him, which made him full of fear of this eight-legged arthropod. But it was precisely because Ron was afraid of this kind of thing that Lu Sen wanted to use it. Fear is an emotion that the human body uses to protect itself. It not only brings the body a higher level of alertness and sufficient adrenaline, but also stimulates the potential hidden in the body. As the young master of a pure-blood family, Ron has good talent and potential, but he has always lived under the glory of his brothers and developed an inferiority complex and timid character. When he arrived at school, his friends were the legendary boy Harry Potter and the smart and academically gifted girl, which made him completely become a background figure. Lu Sen wants to let him have more contact with things that scare him, so as to stimulate his self-confidence, let him overcome himself and discover his potential. Besides, this is not ordinary spider silk. It is what Lu Sen asked Hagrid to get, Aragog's spider silk. Aragog is a giant, ferocious acromantula. This giant spider is not only extremely rare, but also full of magic. It was Hagrid's pet when he was a student, and was later released into the Forbidden Forest. Now it has developed into a huge population and has become the overlord of the Forbidden Forest. Willow wood and acromantula silk, this combination is unprecedented. Encouraged by his friends, Ron tried it out cautiously and found it was more suitable than the previous one. However, Lu Sen said earnestly, "My friend, when you truly overcome your inner fear and are full of confidence, this magic wand can exert your true power. Now it is still a long way to go." Ron asked in surprise, "Really? Can I become even more powerful?" At this point he began to lose confidence again. "You are not lying to me, are you?" Lu Sen said to his two roommates who were happy to receive new magic wands, "Of course it's true. I am now a wand maker, a professional wand maker. I can tell you responsibly from a professional perspective, a large part of your talents have not yet been discovered. So, don't be afraid when something happens. Just do it. Come on, shout with me. Just do it." Ron exchanged glances with Neville, then tentatively raised a fist and shouted, "Fuck, it's over. Not passionate enough. Louder." Neville suddenly summoned up the courage to shout, "Just do it. Oh. That's right. This emotion is right." Harry looked at the three of them speechlessly. He felt that the two normal roommates were about to be led astray. On a Saturday in early April, Lu Sen was tinkering with his wand in Hagrid's basement when he was suddenly interrupted by Hagrid's loud voice. Lu Sen put down a handful of wood and cleaned up the sawdust on his body, wondering, "What's wrong, Hagrid? You'd better take a look at this, it's supposed to be for you." Hagrid was holding a paper crane in his hand and flapping its wings, trying to escape from Hagrid's five-finger mountain. Lu Sen was stunned for a moment. "Is it for communication? It has become quite exquisite." After being rescued by Lu Sen, the paper crane flew around Lu Sen, then automatically unfolded in mid-air and turned into a piece of paper in the blink of an eye. When I took it and looked at it, there was only a short sentence written on it: "The medicine is ready." The medicine is ready. Lu Sen was delighted. Wolfsbane potion. The note written by Snape. Oh. The Wolfsbane potion was successful. Hagrid. I'm leaving first. I'll come again tomorrow. After saying that, Lu Sen ran out of Hagrid's house. On the way, Lu Sen took out his communicator and found that besides the chat of Fireball Dragon, there was another unread message from Snape. It seemed that he had used the communicator to call but to no avail, so he used the traditional way of sending a message. A few minutes later, outside Snape's private lounge. Knock, knock, knock. Professor. It's me, Lu Sen. Without waiting for a reply, Lu Sen opened the door a crack and stuck his head in. Snape was staring at the potion in the crucible. Without even looking up, he said in a low voice, "If you were a Slytherin student, I would definitely give you detention." Lu Sen didn't care about what the old bat said. He said with a grin, "Professor, was the Wolfsbane potion successful?" Snape folded his arms and said expressionlessly, "That depends on how you define success. If you mean to prevent your stupid lackey from biting people on the night of the full moon, then it is a success." At this point, he glanced down at Lu Sen with a slight curve at the corner of his mouth. Lu Sen rubbed his hands, not caring about Snape's roundabout words to disparage Lupin, and said happily, "Congratulations, Professor. The birth of this potion will earn you the Order of Merlin." "Humph. Don't write it. I can't afford to lose face," Snape said, picking up a book and reading it. Lu Sen was puzzled and asked, "What's wrong, Professor? Don't you want to receive the award together with Mr. Belby? Although he was the one who originally proposed the formula, I don't know how long it would have taken for it to be released without your improvement. You are fully qualified to receive the award." Snape didn't comment, but said calmly, "If I want it, I will rewrite a better formula myself, no need to tell me about it. Don't you want this pot of medicine?" Lu Sen stopped trying to persuade him. He had experienced the arrogance of the alchemist, so he decided to forget it. Under Snape's guidance, Lu Sen excitedly divided the medicine in the pot into 7 portions, each about the size of a small cup. "Start drinking 1 serving every day a week before the full moon. Let your werewolf subordinates try it." Lu Sen carefully sealed the medicine, thought for a moment and asked, "Professor, how long does it take to make this medicine? How much does it cost? Is it easy to preserve?" "Humph, after simplification and improvement, it now takes half a month to brew a dose of medicine. It is not easy to preserve, and it is recommended to be taken within a month. As for the cost, perhaps no werewolf can afford it except your lackey. He should be thankful that he has a stupid master like you. If I were you, I would not hand over the business to a werewolf." Whenever his old enemy Lupin was mentioned, Snape never hesitated to criticize him. However, Lu Sen's good mood was not affected at all, and Lupin was finally able to safely pass the transformation period. Chapter 65. In mid-April, Galaxy Group launched 2 new products simultaneously. One is the improved official version of Plants vs. Zombies. The game was pre-launched in newspapers and many reviewers were invited to try it out. The fun and unique gameplay of the game have whetted the appetite of many wizards, especially young wizards and witches. The cute plants and novel settings in the game make wizards who are not interested in the Muggle war full of expectations. The official version of Plants vs. Zombies adopts the tablet style, which means the tablet in the tablet computer. Lu Sen was so unkind as to use an idea that Jobs hadn't even thought of yet. It looks exactly like the iPad many years later. The outer shell is made of wood, but after going through multiple magical processes, it becomes as hard as iron while remaining light. The glass cover on the front works like a charm. It is not only sturdy and drop resistant, but also seamlessly integrated with the outer frame. This makes the gaming tablet dust-proof and waterproof beyond the IP68 level. Little wizards can play freely while taking a bath. Thanks to the use of unique printing technology, the cost of this game is much lower than that of Muggle Wars, and it is also lighter and more portable. Therefore, the sales method of this product has also changed. It is no longer limited to Galaxy Group's own stores. Instead, the game is widely sold in gift shops, toy stores, and bookstores. Wizards can buy it nearby. Although this reduces profits, it can save a lot of management costs. Otherwise, with so many orders, you will have to hire a lot of people to keep busy. The young wizards have been baptized by the Muggle War and have been deeply captured by the games of the Galactic Group. As soon as Plants vs. Zombies was released, we immediately received a large number of orders. The bookstore and Zonko's joke shop in Hogsmeade Village have already stocked up with sufficient supplies. The little wizards placed their orders in the morning, and an owl delivered the game to them at noon. This game is even more popular than Muggle Wars. Even adult wizards and professors applauded the magical animals and plants involved in the game. Professor Sprout also used Plants vs. Zombies to tell the little wizards about the dangers of several magical plants in the herbology class. The little wizards watched with great interest and praised this novel and interesting teaching method. It can be said that it is fun and educational. The game has been highly praised by all walks of life. As Fireball Dragon said, the wizarding world lacks games, and even more so, fantasy-themed games. This game also has an advanced version. This time, Lu Sen doesn't need to command, Lupin has easily prepared the advanced limited edition. In fact, it just makes the color of the tablet more luxurious, the accessories of the plants more beautiful, and the shape of the zombies more domineering. The game is the same, the main feature is a skin change. The price is also very generous, which is only 5 times the standard version. Many pure blood families prefer this version. Another blockbuster product is the official version of the Magic Communicator. The first batch of communication badges have been tested for a long time and many flaws have been corrected. After that, both voice communication and text message writing are very convenient. The magic signal also covered remote areas within a few months, and now there is unimpeded communication throughout the UK. Whether it's deep in the mountains or in Hogwarts where magical shielding is everywhere, the communication badge works well. The official version of the communicator is about the same size as a modern smartphone, but thinner and lighter. Without any magic input, it looks like a small rectangular mirror. When wizards hold it in their hands and input a little magic, the mirror becomes a display, which is not only convenient for operation, but also prepares for adding more functions in the future. The Galaxy Group's emblem symbol G represents lightning in ancient magic, so the official version of the communicator was renamed Magic Phone. Since wizards have long been accustomed to the almost free way of sending messages through owls, the operator's method of recharging phone bills is obviously not applicable here. But once wizards get used to this convenient and instant communication method, there are plenty of ways to make money, so there is no need to rush. Besides, the profit from selling magic phones is already very high. In the common room, while Lu Sen received the magic phone, the Weasley twins, Percy, Ron, and the other 4 Weasleys also received new phones given to them by their families. Seeing Harry and Neville looking at them eagerly, Lu Sen cleared the records of the previous communication badge and gave it to the 2 of them. Since the new phone had no address book, Lu Sen and his friends started adding each other as friends. Features like adding friends face-to-face and recommending business cards would not be available in the Muggle world for more than 20 years, but thanks to the convenience of magic and Lu Sen's advanced cognition, this feature was already used in the first version. The operation logic of SMS is based on Penguin, so the nickname can be modified at will. Lu Sen's nickname is his real name, but when he added Fred, he couldn't help but laugh. Pfft! Black Dragon of the Hebridean Islands. Very creative. What about George? Let me see. Australian Egg White Dragon. You two are the black and white duo? Haha. I changed the remarks before, this is the first time I know your online names. You are all dragons? Lu Sen said curiously. At this time, Ron next to him said, what's this? Look at me. The Hungarian Horntail. This is the most powerful dragon. The 3 Weasleys began to argue, and each believed that their dragon was the strongest. Lu Sen fiddled with the magic phone while listening to their argument. It turned out that they all changed their online names to dragons after returning from Romania. It's quite interesting that the nicknames of the whole family are all dragons. What the hell? Something seems wrong. Lu Sen suddenly broke out in a sweat. He remembered the strange reactions of his twin brothers when they saw that the recipient was a fireball dragon. He then thought about the fact that the Weasley family all used dragon names as their online nicknames. Fireball Dragon occasionally reveals feminine language habits when chatting. Lu Sen originally thought it was a prank between friends, but now. Lu Sen opened the address book with trembling hands, quietly retreated to the corner of the lounge, and sent a message to Lupin who had saved it in advance. Lu Sen, emergency. Are you there? Are you there? A few seconds later, Lupin, what's wrong? If it's urgent, can we talk on the phone? Lu Sen, no, I just want to ask a question. Didn't I ask you to help me find someone to train Magic Terminal? Who did you find? Lupin, what terminal? Oh, I remember now. You said you wanted to find someone who is patient and can teach simple things like coaxing a child, right? Lu Sen, yes, that's it. Then you asked a researcher to contact me, right? To design one or something. Lupin, so what? What went wrong? Was it taught incorrectly? Lu Sen, the teaching is very good, it's okay, haha, I thought the other party was someone from the Weasley family, I was so scared. Lupin, is that? When Lu Sen saw this sentence, his eyes suddenly went dark and he took a breath of cold air. He asked tremblingly, let me confirm again, are we talking about the same person? Lupin, Ginny, I thought you knew. Lu Sen suddenly had the expression of Van Gogh covering his face, and the whole person became abstract. No. The guy I've been chatting with for so long is a woman. And she's my roommate's sister. The most important thing is, I thought it was a man. He talked about everything with her. He even harassed her in the middle of the night to get her to have sex. It's over. It's ruined. This is social death. Seeing that Lu Sen didn't reply for a long time, Lupin typed, I was very busy at the time, and Ginny happened to be wandering around the company, so I asked her. As a result, Ginny happily took over the job. Originally, I thought she would have enough fun in a day or two, and I would find someone to take over, but later I was too busy. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have forgotten about it. She seems to be very concerned, and I haven't seen her wandering around the company for a long time. Lu Sen wanted to cry but had no tears. He thought she was a like-minded friend. What was this little loli? If she was a senior who had just graduated, it would be fine for him to chat with her. She hasn't even started school yet. She's only 10 years old, no wonder Ron, the twins, and Percy looked at him strangely. My lifelong reputation. Chapter 66. At this time, a notification sound rang on the magic phone. Lu Sen picked it up and saw it. Wow! Speak of the devil and he will appear. Fireball Dragon applied to become your friend. After hesitating for a second, Lu Sen decisively chose to agree. What's the big deal? We're not boyfriend and girlfriend. It was embarrassing, but looking back, chatting with the Weasley girl was quite interesting. She was actually quite mature in many ways. We could talk about the same topics. There was no generation gap at all. Thinking of this, Lu Sen laughed at himself. He was only 11 years old. The two were of the same age. It was just that Lu Sen had the memory of his previous life, so everyone looked like a child to him. After getting over this psychological hurdle, Lu Sen opened the chat window of Fireball Dragon and wrote, have you played the new version of Plants vs. Zombies? Fireball Dragon, yeah, not bad. The new plants are awesome. And they are even more exquisite. Haha. I can fight zombies again. Lu Sen smiled knowingly and replied, if you play games every day, be careful about your myopia. Fireball Dragon, go away, what do you care? You play a lot. Lu Sen was editing the next text with a chuckle when he suddenly heard a cough behind him. George grinned and said, I called you 3 times and you didn't even hear me. Who are you chatting with? You're so focused. Fred echoed, hey, isn't it a little girl? Let's see who is so lucky to be favored by President Lu. Lu Sen hid the magic phone behind his back, and then acted as if nothing had happened and said, don't make a fuss, I'm just chatting normally, haha. Really? Nothing. But his explanation aroused the curiosity of several people. During the fight, Fred or George reached out to grab Lu Sen's phone, but accidentally pressed the call button. It was hands-free. But the twins didn't notice, one of them grabbed Lu Sen's arm, and the other grabbed his feet and lifted him up. They both shouted at the same time, 1, 2, 3. Throw. Ron couldn't help but applaud when he saw this scene, and explained to Harry and Neville, they used to do this to me when I was a kid. They also said it would make me grow taller. Lu Sen, who was thrown onto the sofa, turned and tumbled in the air. When he landed on the sofa, he had adjusted his posture and sat steadily on it. He was not panicked at all, and even crossed his legs comfortably. The twins burst into laughter when they saw this scene, clapped their hands and said in unison, so cool. Do it again. Lu Sen's physical fitness is far superior to that of the little wizard, and the twins together are no match for him, but just now he was caught by the two in order to protect the phone. At this time, Lu Sen touched his pocket and found that his magic phone was missing. He looked and found it on the floor behind the twins. This hesitation caused the twins to charge at him again, but before Lu Sen could escape, 2 pairs of hands stretched out from behind him and held him down. They were Harry and Ron. They also joined the ranks of attacking Lu Sen with laughter. 2 fists can't beat 4 hands, let alone 8 hands. Lu Sen immediately begged for mercy, help. You 4 are bullying me. What kind of heroes are you? Fight me one-on-one if you can. Ron laughed wildly, wahaha. Finally I get the chance to play a trick on you. How did you and Harry tickle me last time? I'll pay you back double. Fred also shouted, who said we were fighting one-on-one? We have red hair. We are fighting one-on-one with you, a black-haired person. Ha ha ha. Help. Harry. What are you doing? Is that BB every flavor beans? No, no, no. Last time I tasted canned herrings. I don't want to eat it again. Harry grinned evilly and stuffed a multi-flavored bean of suspicious color into the struggling Lu Sen's mouth. He said, how do you put it in your words? Scream. No one will come to save you even if you scream your throat out. Ha ha ha. Boys' fights are often so inexplicable, but the atmosphere is actually quite good, and everyone is having a great time, including Lu Sen himself. In fact, it was effortless for him to break free from the restraints of several people, but everyone was having so much fun that he just cooperated and got into the role. But the person on the other end of the phone had no idea what was going on and just thought that several people had teamed up to bully Lu Sen. Then a sharp shout filled with anger came out from the speaker, Fred. George. Stop. Your hands. The shout was so penetrating that several people were frightened and quickly let go of their hands. The faces of several Weasleys changed at the same time. This shouting style reminded them of their mothers. A few people came to their senses and looked in the direction of the sound, and found that the sound came from the magic phone on the ground. Just as they breathed a sigh of relief and realized that the voice was not from their mother, Mrs. Weasley, the voice shouted again, and you. Ron. Go aside too. I heard your voice. Ron frowned and said, Ginny? Why are you calling? Don't mind your own business. Ginny shouted even louder, I said. Get out of the way. Stay away. I don't allow you to bully Lu Sen. Do you hear me? The 3 Weasleys present looked at each other in surprise. This unquestionable tone and serious tone were almost identical to their mothers. It was definitely their little sister. Since Mrs. Weasley joined the Galactic Group, their family no longer had to worry about gold galleons. The Weasleys began to spoil their children as much as they could, as if they wanted to make up for what they owed to everyone over the years. Several Weasleys at school received more pocket money and endless new clothes to wear. Ron also got rid of his inferiority complex and became much more confident and optimistic. But the person who has changed the most has to be Ginny, who has always been the center of attention. Ginny follows her mother all day long and receives the most care and pampering. And because she was often in contact with the company's affairs, her temperament changed. She became the most aristocratic person among her brothers and sisters. She has a bad temper and always says what she wants in front of her brother. Even Percy doesn't dare to provoke her. When traveling in Romania, all the brothers were completely subdued by her, even the second brother Charlie. He said frankly that even if he faced a man-eating wild dragon, he would not feel as much pressure as his younger sister. Fred explained, Ginny, it's not what you heard. We're not bullying anyone. George also hurriedly said, yes, sister. We are just joking. Ginny insisted, come on. You guys are so bad. I don't believe you. Anyway, if I find out that you bully Lu Sen again, I will never let you off. Do you hear me? The man on the other end waited for a few seconds, and when no one responded, he repeated in a dignified manner, did you hear me? I'm asking you a question. They thought that if they didn't agree, their younger sister would probably complain to their mother. And she would hold a grudge and would definitely settle the score during the holidays. Thinking of the terrible consequences, they had no choice but to agree. Ah, I heard it. I heard it. I heard it. Ginny snorted and said, I heard someone else took action. Who is it? Stand out. After thinking about it, they all focused their attention on Harry. Harry saw several people signaling him to reply, so he said nervously, yes, it's me. Ginny asked coldly, who are you? I'm Harry, Harry Potter, a good friend of Lou Sr. Ginny was obviously shocked, but she still insisted, Harry Potter. It's the Harry Potter who survived a catastrophe. Humph, no matter who it is. Don't bully Lu Sen. You guys should apologize right now. The friends were all stunned by this domineering shout. Lu Sen saw that the situation was not good, so he quickly picked up the phone and turned off the speakerphone. Then he ran back to the dormitory with the phone without looking back and slammed the door shut. After confirming that he was safe, Lu Sen finally breathed a sigh of relief, picked up the phone again and put it to his ear, and said carefully, "Hello? This is Lu Sen. Are you still there?" There was a clanging sound of ding-dong from the other side, and after a while a delicate girl's voice was heard. "Yes, yes. Are you okay?" The voice was soft and pleasant, completely different from the stern and fierce one just now. The magic phone in Lu Sen's hand was about to fall. This sound was just so nice. He held the phone again and said, "I'm fine. I was just joking just now. I'm sorry to have made you worried. But the way you scolded them just now." Ginny said in panic, What happened?" "It's quite impressive. They were all scared." "Ha ha ha." Lu Sen praised. Ginny was obviously relieved, and she spoke back to the way she did when they were chatting online, "Hey, you scared me. I thought you were going to say scary, or tomboy or something like that." "Hee hee. How could that be? Quite impressive. Come on. Tell me the truth, am I scared? How could that be? I'm super brave, okay." What Lu Sen didn't know was that, behind the door, 4 guys who had forgotten the pain after their wounds healed were eavesdropping on the conversation inside with great interest. Chapter 67. The weather was getting warmer, but the rain and morning dew made Lu Sen very uncomfortable. Because he and Neville had to face muddy and slippery roads and get dirty during their morning exercises. So Lu Sen changed the location of the morning exercise to Hagrid's basement, so that at least the two of them didn't have to run along the slippery black lake. It's not that there are no rooms in the villa, but Hagrid's basement is more durable. Lu Sen ordered a batch of modern fitness equipment, including dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, club bells, smith racks, gantry racks, and bench press racks. He completely turned a corner of the basement into a fitness area. Originally, Lu Sen wanted to get 2 sets of treadmills and rowing machines, but the former is completely unnecessary as long as the weather is good. As for the latter, there is a large area of water on the Black Lake to play. Wouldn't it be nice to row a real boat? Of course, we couldn't just use the poor owls to transport these heavy goods. We used the small villa inside the door and the shrinking talisman drawn by the uncle to successfully deliver the equipment. Lu Sen shook his head and sighed. His talisman skills were still too low. The advanced shrinking talisman drawn by his uncle had been used many times and was still powerful. The elementary talisman drawn by himself could only be used as a disposable item. There was still a long way to go and there was no end to learning. After setting up the fitness equipment, Lu Sen combined the Chinese bodybuilding method with modern fitness theory to plan a detailed fitness plan for himself and Neville. As long as the weather is bad, the two will come here to use the equipment for fitness. Later, even Hagrid was attracted by these iron lumps and started training with them. When Lu Sen saw Hagrid using a 200 Jin barbell as a dumbbell, he couldn't help but think, if Hagrid is addicted to fitness, who wouldn't be scared when he gets a body of muscular muscles? He doesn't even need to practice magic, just give him a heavy shield and he can sweep the battlefield. That scene, just thinking about it is amazing. It's not just Lu Sen and Neville who don't like muddy roads, but also Harry who has to practice Quidditch 3 times a week. The team captain, Wood, is a true Quidditch lover and an excellent leader. He can always find the bright spots in his teammates and motivate them to improve. Under Wood's encouragement, the team members are training hard to prepare for the battle against Slytherin. That night, as soon as Harry, exhausted as a dog, returned to the common room, Ron and Hermione, who were playing Plants vs. Zombies together, put down their games and went to greet him. Hermione said worriedly, "Harry, you can't play in the next Quidditch game. Listen to me, you have to ask for leave." Ron was also trying to persuade them, but he was not as anxious as Hermione. He said, "Harry, have you heard? Professor Snape will be the referee for the next game. No matter how well you perform, it will be useless. He will definitely find ways to deduct points from Gryffindor." Harry also heard the news. Snape had to referee the next match for some reason. Gryffindor vs. Hufflepuff. The head of Slytherin House wanted to interfere, and everyone was very unhappy about it. During the training just now, the morale of his teammates was low because of this, but Harry didn't care. "Don't worry, as long as we play well, it won't be difficult to beat Hufflepuff. Hermione excitedly grabbed Harry's shoulders with both hands and shook him, saying, "You're trying to kill yourself. If I hadn't saved you last time, Snape would have thrown you to death." Harry was dizzy, but he was reluctant to break free from Hermione. Ever since he and Hermione kissed each other last time, they had been keeping a distance from each other. At this moment, facing Hermione so close to him, Harry couldn't help but think of the scene that day, which made a sweet smile appear on his face. Hermione bit her lip and thought about what excuse to make to ask for leave. Should she say that Harry broke his leg or was poisoned? Or really broke his leg? It would be better than being cursed by Snape again. But when she looked carefully, she saw that Harry in front of her was looking at her tenderly, and didn't take her words to heart at all. Hermione was suddenly angry and shy, and after pushing Harry away, she turned around and found a sofa to sit on. Although she looked angry, the blush on her face was as bright as a fire. "Snape will definitely use more powerful spells on you then. I can't guarantee that I will save you again," Hermione said, turning her head away and not daring to look at Harry, while covering her red face with her hands. Just as Harry and Ron were swallowing their saliva, Lucien, who was watching the fun, put down the book in his hand and interrupted, Hey! I was the one who saved Harry, okay? It was Quirrell who cast the curse. I've said it several times. How about we make another bet?" Even Harry blushed at the last sentence, and he quietly took a step away from Ron to avoid being discovered. Of course Harry didn't tell Ron what happened that day, he felt embarrassed. Lucien saw everything and smiled without saying anything. Harry thought for a moment and said, "You don't have to worry about me. I have to win the game no matter what, so that I can enter the finals and snatch the house cup from Slytherin." Hermione wanted to dissuade him, but the heat on her face had not yet subsided, so she could only hum in dissatisfaction angrily on the sofa. Just then, the entrance to the common room opened and Neville hopped in. There was a pool of blood on his sleeve, his hair was a mess, and his legs seemed to be stuck together, so he could only hop forward with difficulty. Lucien quickly ran up to him and asked with concern, "Neville, what's going on? Who bullied you?" Neville said shyly, "It's Malfoy and the others." Lucien pulled out the birch wand and removed the spell with 2 strokes, then cursed, "It's a leg-locking curse. Damn it! How dare you bully my brother? I'm going to find him now. Watch me turn his 3 legs into 1 leg." Neville was sweating all over. He quickly grabbed Lucien and said, No. I don't want to make a big deal out of this." Harry and the other 2 hurried over to him and helped check him, only to find that Neville was safe and sound. Hermione said angrily, "You can't just let it go like this. You should go find Professor McGonagall." How could they do this? Ron and Harry also echoed this, advising Neville not to swallow his anger. Neville looked at his friends with gratitude and said, "I'm fine. Malfoy and the other 2 played a trick on me, but I didn't suffer any loss. I couldn't help but beat them up." Hermione's eyes widened immediately. Was this still the timid and submissive Neville? She asked in disbelief, "What about the blood on your body?" "Oh, it's crabs, or maybe it's Goyles, I can't remember," Neville said shyly. Hermione and the other 2 looked at each other, especially Harry and Ron. They exchanged glances and said in their hearts, "No, is it true that exercising with Lucien is so effective?" Lucien laughed happily and said, "Ha ha ha. Good fight. Those 3 guys deserved a beating." Then he clenched his fist viciously, his eyes flashing with ferocity, and said, "But they dared to attack you, which means they didn't give me face. Next time I'll help you deal with them." The trio and Neville were all worried about Malfoy and his gang when they saw Lucien's inadvertently sneer smile. Chapter 68. Soon the match against Hufflepuff arrived, but to everyone's relief, Dumbledore also came to the game. When Harry saw the headmaster's white beard, his mood suddenly brightened, and his luck exploded in the following game. He caught the golden snitch in less than 5 minutes after the start. But the show in the stands a few minutes ago was equally exciting. Before the game started, Malfoy, who was sitting behind Neville and Ron, started to mock the group. He would mock Ron from time to time, saying that his family could only barely have enough food because they climbed up the high branch of Lucien. Then he criticized Neville for having no intelligence and being a hard worker who could only rely on his fists. He would only be able to move bricks in the Muggle society after graduation. When he turned his firepower on Hermione and was about to talk about her background, Ron took advantage of the noisy cheers of the game to launch the first attack. He grabbed Malfoy's head, pulled the chair off, and smashed it with his fist. Malfoy's followers Crabbe and Goyle rushed over desperately like loyal dogs protecting their master. But what greeted them were the iron fists of Lucien and Nai. Ron and Neville were somewhat restrained, and they mainly hit each other on the body and head. But Lucien had no moral principles at all. He hit the lower body, waist, ribs, wherever it hurt. He hit the eyes, nose, mouth, which were vulnerable, a few more times. At the beginning, Ron and Neville were fighting with each other and hurt each other. But after Lucien dealt with one, he immediately supported his teammates and beat Master Ma and his two friends beyond recognition, making them piss and run. After being beaten twice, Malfoy somehow found some courage and slurred his words with his mouth swollen like a sausage. "I'm going to tell my dad. I'm going to tell the teacher. You guys just wait to be expelled." Neville and Ron, who had just had a great fight, were suddenly frightened. Then, looking at the miserable appearance of the three people on the ground, their passion suddenly cooled and they began to feel scared. In the panicked eyes of the two, Lucien approached with a sly smile and said, "He. Do you think I will give you a chance to complain?" He pulled a bottle of potion from his pocket and stepped forward grimly. Neville swallowed and said in a trembling voice, "Lucien. It's not that serious, right? They are classmates." Ron looked around nervously. Fortunately, the audience was so attracted by the game that they didn't pay much attention to the few people. But he also pulled Lucien and said in horror, "No, Lucien. Minor wizards who kill people will also be imprisoned in Azkaban." Lucien chuckled, "What are you thinking? Classmates should love each other. The three of them accidentally fell down the stairs, and I'm helping them heal their wounds." After saying this, he pried open the mouths of the three people who were whimpering and crying, and poured a sip of potion into each of them. Malfoy and the other two recovered quickly from their black eyes and sausage mouth, but Lucien still thought it was too slow. By then, Harry had already caught the golden snitch. Hermione had been watching the game intently from the beginning. When she saw Harry win the game, she jumped up and down with excitement. She hugged Ron who was nearest to her and shouted, "We won! We won!" Ron also said happily, "Yes! We won! Malfoy and the others were beaten up by us." Hermione didn't pay any attention to what Ron said next, her heart was beating out of her chest with excitement. The two were infected by the thunderous cheers, and couldn't help but hug each other's shoulders and jump and cheer together. Harry's safety finally put Hermione's heart at ease, and this unprecedented victory left her with nowhere to vent her joy. At this moment, her mood was particularly bright, and Ron, who was cheering with her, looked so pleasing to the eye. Without thinking too much, the elementary school bully kissed Ron on the face as if possessed by a ghost. Ron was completely confused. Did happiness come so suddenly? He groped at the wet cheek that had just been kissed, and the feeling of that moment was replayed and savored over and over again. The whole world was quiet, with only the sound of Bo. Lucien pulled out the hawthorn wand from his waist and cast a few healing spells on the three people. He also cast a few spells on Ron and Neville, healing their minor scratches. Then, they left Malfoy and the other two behind and followed the cheering Hermione to celebrate their victory. Lucien walked to the stands, turned around with a wicked smile, glanced in the direction of the stands, and silently wished them good luck in his heart. "Is it okay to help students who have accidentally fallen by feeding them some immature healing potions that I have prepared myself? Is it okay to add a little bit of refreshing medicine to the healing potion? Is it normal to add a little bit of blood-activating stimulant?" On the other side, Harry was tossed around by the Gryffindors and was not let down from the crowd until half an hour later. Hermione, who was outside the crowd, finally caught the chance and was the first to fly forward and give him a hug. Ron felt a little uncomfortable, so he quickly stepped forward to tell him the good news that they had beaten up Malfoy, and at the same time diverted Hermione's attention. Ron's storytelling skills are pretty good. He stretched a story that was supposed to take less than 3 minutes into more than 10 minutes, and he also emphasized his own bravery and fearlessness. With several people worried, Lucien gave a guarantee that the aftermath work could be done with absolute peace of mind. Harry then left the others and reunited with his teammates, and put the broom back into the broom shed. However, when he returned to the lounge, he was worried. After asking several people, he learned that he saw a sneaky figure on the way to deliver the broom. "When I followed him, I saw that it was Professor Snape." Harry followed quietly on his broomstick, and finally found that Snape was secretly meeting with Quirrell in the Forbidden Forest, forcing him to figure out how to deal with the three-headed dog. And it sounded like he was planning to steal the Philosopher's Stone. This news made Harry feel upset. He thought Snape was a good person, but what he found in the Forbidden Forest seemed not to be the case. Hermione looked triumphant after hearing this. She said to Lucien, "Haha. What do you think?" Some people foolishly thought that Snape was on Harry's side. "What do you think now?" Lucien snorted and said, "How? Of course I said it with my mouth. But I can't reveal the details yet, lest you noobs who don't understand the art of brain occlusion leak military information." Seeing that everyone showed disbelief, Lucien added, "Let me reiterate, Snape will never hurt Harry. This will never change. And the one who really wants to steal the Philosopher's Stone is someone else. I remind you, don't think about these things during class, it's easy for people to see your thoughts." Several people felt that Lucien was making far-fetched arguments and exaggerating, but a happy thing made them temporarily forget the crisis of the Philosopher's Stone. In the following 2 days, 3 more figures appeared on campus, circling the school. They were not sleepy at all even in the middle of the night, and they felt uncomfortable if they didn't move. I heard that they were caught by Peeves. But their head of house was Snape, so he only gave them 2 days of symbolic detention. Chapter 69. There are still 10 weeks until the final exams, and Hermione has begun her intensive final review. Although Harry and Ron were very reluctant, they were forced to study the books and memorize the exercises together under her influence. Lucien was not in a hurry for the final exam. He exercised and drew talismans as usual. In the evening, he also took time to do research and read Chinese textbooks. During the morning exercise that day, Lucien took Neville for a run as usual. When passing by Hagrid's house, he unexpectedly found Yaya tied outside the door. He walked forward and petted the well-behaved hound, muttering to himself, "Why did Hagrid throw you out? Did you destroy the house? Or did you wet the bed? Hey!" As he spoke, he knocked gently on the door and called out, "Hagrid? Are you home?" After waiting for a while and seeing no movement, Lucien pushed the door open himself. Hagrid rarely locked the door. He took Neville around the first floor expertly, but he didn't see Neville. Just as he was about to look for him in the backyard, there was a noise in the basement under the stairs. Lucien thought, "Is Hagrid exercising? But why is he tying Yaya outside?" As he walked down the stairs, he was about to call the other person. But at this time, Lucien heard Hagrid's voice. He was muttering to himself, "Put it on the stove and roast it slowly over low heat, turning it over every hour." Lucien was overjoyed, this was making food. "Haha! Hagrid! Are you having a barbecue? Why not have it outside? It's a beautiful day today." Hagrid was startled when he heard the sound of footsteps coming down the stairs, and was relieved when he saw it was Lucien. But he still used his huge body to block the fireplace behind him in a panic. "Oh, it's you guys. I just want to warm myself by the fire, nothing else." As he said this, he hid a book in his hand behind his back. Lucien chuckled and said, "Is it better to bake it secretly?" "No. No. There's nothing. Let's go up." Hagrid said a little at a loss. Lucien rolled his eyes and said, "Okay, let's go." But when Hagrid followed them a few steps away from the fireplace, Lucien turned around quickly and ran to the side of the fireplace in a serpentine manner, bypassing Hagrid's huge body. "Ha ha ha! Roasted bird eggs! You actually ate delicious food behind my back. Is it an ostrich egg this big? You're not doing it right. It will explode if you throw it directly into the bucket. I know how to make salt-baked eggs, do you want to try it?" Lucien swallowed unconsciously as he spoke, but his actions frightened Hagrid. "No, no, no. This is not an ostrich egg. This is, Hagrid was sweating, but he hesitated and didn't know how to start. Lucien was suddenly startled when he saw Hagrid's nervous expression. He quickly turned his head and looked at the big egg being roasted in the iron bucket again. "Oh my god, is this a dragon egg?" Lucien remembered what this was. Dragon egg. Neville was startled, then came over in surprise. This kind of rare thing is not easy to see. Hagrid wiped the sweat from his forehead. He looked at Lucien and Neville helplessly and sighed, okay, you found it. This is indeed a dragon egg." As Lucien expected, Hagrid won it from a stranger in the bar. but not by playing cards. That stranger was so mysterious, and he insisted on making a bet with me. But how could he be my opponent? Ha ha ha. Even though I can't beat you, I am already a master when facing others. Who made you so good at playing Muggle Wars? I wiped out all the soldiers on the opposite side with just a few tricks I learned. Hagrid said excitedly. He won the game by playing Wizard War chess. Lucien occasionally played a few games with Hagrid, just like Ron crushed Harry in wizard chess. Hagrid was no match for him. But after seeing Lucien's tricks and rogue style of play, Hagrid's skills were much better than those of ordinary people. Neville said in a trembling voice, "But I remember, it's illegal to raise dragon eggs? And dragons are extremely dangerous once they're born." Lucien didn't care. He knew how to solve it. He would just send it to Romania and give it to Charlie. At this stage, just let Hagrid realize his dream of raising a dragon. After instructing Hagrid to be careful and keep secrets, Lucien and the other man left. But as soon as the evening came, Harry and the other two excitedly told him their new discovery quietly. "Neville and I knew it when we were doing morning exercise, but I forgot to tell you." "But how did you know?" Lucien asked. Ron said with a rich expression, "We were reviewing in the library, but suddenly we saw Hagrid flipping through a book furtively. Guess what? He was looking up how to raise a dragon. When we followed him, we saw the dragon egg. I'm sure it's a Norwegian Spinosaurus. I visited a dragon farm's hatchery in Romania. Actually, Hagrid doesn't need to look it up in a book, just ask me." Hermione interrupted him by elbowing Ron, then gave him a fierce look that said, "Do you want to die?" Then she hugged her shoulders and said, "Hagrid's behavior is very dangerous. But he won't listen to us no matter how we persuade him. He even said that you knew about this a long time ago." "Lucien, do you want Hagrid to go to Azkaban?" Lucien was a little confused. He just found out about this morning. So he quickly defended himself, "It's unfair. Neville and I only found out about this when we were doing morning exercises. How could I, hey? I really knew about this." Seeing that Hermione narrowed her eyes and was obviously about to get angry, he quickly said, "I predicted before, Hagrid will soon get what he wants most." What he wanted most was a dragon egg. And now he got it. "Harry, Ron, do you remember? I said that to you while we were having a barbecue the day I blew up Hagrid's old house." Ron's eyes lit up and he said, "Wow! I remember now. Your prediction. It's come true again. It's amazing." Harry also thought of the scene at that time, but he and Ron could not imagine that what Hagrid wanted most was a dragon egg. He wanted to raise a dragon. Hermione coughed twice to warn Harry and Ron. They looked at each other and immediately understood what they should and should not say. Ron said seriously, "Listen buddy, you can't just raise a dragon. A decree was issued in 1709 that no one can raise a dragon without permission. Whether you raise it for fun or want to sell it for money, it is completely illegal. If you are caught, you will be imprisoned in Azkaban." Harry also advised, "Yes Lucien, Hagrid listens to you the most, you should persuade him quickly." Lucien said indifferently, "It's okay, this is his biggest wish. It's not easy to realize it, let him take care of it for a few days. When the little dragon is born, we will stew it and eat it. Make sure no one will know." Hermione gasped when she heard this and backed away, saying, You. Are you a monster? You want to eat a newborn dragon? You're disgusting. Pervert. You're insane." Lucien chuckled, "Ha ha ha. You took it seriously. I'm not stupid." Hermione had just breathed a sigh of relief when she heard the other party say, "Newborn dragons don't have much meat. It's best to feed them for a few days before eating them." He. Hermione was so angry that she turned her head away and ignored Lucien who was talking nonsense. Harry and Ron looked at him with pleading eyes at this time. They didn't want Hagrid to take any risks either. Lucien had no choice but to stop joking and said seriously, Okay, I'll go and persuade Hagrid. After the dragon is hatched, let him enjoy his craving for a few days and then send him away." Chapter 70. The next day, Lucien and his group took advantage of their lunch break to walk out of the castle and go to Hagrid's house. On the way, Lucien suddenly thought of a question, so he asked Harry and his group, "By the way, why did you three go to see Hagrid yesterday?" The three of them looked at each other and then remembered that they had forgotten to tell Lucien. As the three little ones talked at once, Lucien patted Harry's shoulder in appreciation. It turned out that yesterday, Harry suddenly had an idea. He was worried that Hagrid's big mouth would be used to trick people into revealing the secret of the three-headed dog Fluffy, so he hurried over to ask. Several people praised Hagrid and asked him to reveal all the protection measures of the Philosopher's Stone. He also told everyone in detail who were the professors who participated in protecting the Philosopher's Stone. The three little ones were also horrified to find out that just the day before, a hidden person used a dragon egg as bait and learned from Hagrid that Fluffy would fall asleep when he heard music. Lucien shook his head in silence. Hagrid's mind was too naive. He was not careful with his words. When they arrived at Hagrid's house, Fang was still guarding outside the door. This lazy and timid dog saw a familiar face and just barked twice symbolically, then lay down and went to sleep, which had no warning effect at all. Hermione shook her head and knocked on the door with Harry and Ron. Thank God, at least Hagrid locked it. Hearing the knock on the door, Hagrid welcomed the few people in. Under the leadership of Hermione, they tried to persuade them again, but the other party remained unmoved and insisted on hatching the dragon. Lucien's suggestion of roasting the whole dragon was still rejected by everyone present, and he felt quite regretful. After a while, under the leadership of Hermione, several people began to get busy. Not only do they have to complete the massive amount of homework left by the professors, they also have to review their lessons, and they also have to worry about whether Hagrid's secret dragon breeding will be discovered. The task of keeping an eye on Hagrid hatching the eggs fell on Lucien and Neville, who would go over to check on the situation during their morning exercises every day. Finally one day, Lucien and Nai brought back good news at breakfast. The egg was moving and would hatch today. Hermione definitely wouldn't skip classes to go see the dragon eggs. So Ron kept persuading Hermione throughout the herbology class that he thought it was a rare opportunity to watch a dragon egg hatch up close, and they should skip class to see it. Hermione disagreed with him. Lucien, who was standing by, discovered that Malfoy seemed to have heard some of the conversation and kept trying to get closer to them, hoping to find out what they were hiding. When it was break time, they rushed to Hagrid's house. Lucien wanted to take Neville with him, but he really loved the herbology class and was worried about missing the class, so he didn't come along. As Lucien expected, he keenly noticed a sneaky figure following him on the way. Lucien had already obtained Hagrid's key and led a few people to open the door and enter. Before closing the door, Lucien rolled his eyes, took out a magic wand at random, and quietly cast 2 spells at the ground under the window, then returned to the house in a gloomy manner. When they got to the basement, Hagrid had already excitedly moved the dragon egg to the coffee table. The few people arrived at the right time. Cracks had already appeared on the dragon egg and were gradually expanding. A clacking sound could be heard coming from the egg, and it was obvious that the little guy was trying hard to break out of the shell. Soon, a grey little creature escaped from the egg. It had large wings that were disproportionate to its thin body. Its white beak was a bit like an eagle's, and its long, thin tail was exactly like a snake's. There are golden and blue-purple stripes on its back, and the color transition is very beautiful. You can vaguely see the protruding horn bumps on it, and when it grows up, it will become a row of spikes. This is the origin of its name, Norwegian Spinosaurus. Lucien thought it was just a small lizard with wings, and it didn't have any meat on it. He immediately felt that the roasted dragon was not delicious. But in Hagrid's eyes, this was the most beautiful creature in the world. He touched the little dragon's chin lovingly, as if he was teasing a kitten. As a result, Xiaolong showed his sharp fangs and bit his finger. But Hagrid's half-giant bloodline is not given for nothing. He has thick skin and flesh, and is resistant to poison and magic. The little dragon's bite cannot penetrate his defense at all. He also said happily, "Look. It recognized me as its mother. How smart, Norbert." In the puzzled looks of Ron and the others, he explained, "It has to have a name, right? Right, Norbert? The little guy is so cute." As soon as he finished speaking, the cute little guy burped and spewed out a stream of fire. A piece of Hagrid's beard was instantly burned off, but he just smiled and patted out the flame, thinking that this was a greeting to it. Hermione immediately showed a worried look. The newly born dragon was so ferocious. What should she do in the future? You know, the growth rate of dragons is quite amazing. Just then, there seemed to be some movement outside the house. Lucien's eyes lit up and he rushed to check. He deliberately slowed down his pace as he walked toward the door, and amplified the sound of his footsteps. Sure enough, after hearing the footsteps outside the door, there was a panicked fluttering sound. When Lucien slowly opened the door, all that was left outside the window was a pair of shoes. Lu Sen laughed evilly and thought to himself, if you dare to follow us, don't blame me for being rude. He 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 he. Lu Sen cast a strong sticky spell on the ground under the window. Malfoy, who came to peek, lay down by the window and looked, and then found that he was stuck. When Lu Sen approached, he had to take off his shoes and hide. Seeing no one in the direction of the castle, Lu Sen guessed that the other party was hiding not far away, so he said to himself, strange. I clearly heard a sound, why is there nothing? At the same time, he took out the number 2 magic wand, made of alderwood and with the core made of the tail hair of a thestral. Perfect for silent casting, and instantly removed the sticky spell under the window. Of course, Lu Sen didn't just end the prank out of kindness. Instead, he quietly set up 3 more sticky spells. Then he slammed the door shut. Malfoy was hiding in the corner outside the house. When he heard Lu Sen mumbling and the sound of the door closing, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief. He cursed in his heart, idiot. He wanted to catch me. No way. Fortunately, I was smart. He he he. He was so blind. He didn't even notice my shoes. He was left with only his socks on his feet, so he sneaked back to the window again, stood half a meter away and tried to pull his shoes off. As a result, he lifted the shoe off the ground with a light touch. Before he could feel happy, he found that he was stuck again. Malfoy, % and Yuan number Yuan. What's going on? But he pricked up his ears and heard the sound in the room again. He struggled to get free, leaving his socks behind. After running 2 steps barefoot, the sharp grass and gravel on the ground suddenly pricked him and made him grimace in pain. Malfoy stopped right where he was and hurriedly put his bare feet into his shoes. It seems that my feet feel a little wrong. But he didn't have time to think about it, because several footsteps in the house were about to reach the door. He had no choice but to crouch down, run quickly to the corner of the house, and hide again in the same place as before. After Lu Sen and the others told Hagrid to be careful, they went back to class. When leaving, Lu Sen saw a pair of socks left not far from the window and realized that some idiot had fallen into the trap again. So he held back his laughter and took out a small thing as big as a capsule from his pocket, spun it twice and threw it into his sock. Malfoy waited until the footsteps of several people gradually faded away before he dared to show his head. Just as he was about to leave, he remembered his socks. As a noble, he could have as many socks as he wanted, and they were all custom-made. But the problem was that his family's emblem was embroidered on them. He had to take them away. Otherwise, he would be exposed. He thought to himself, if I fall for it again, I'd be a fool. Then he took 1 step at a time, testing the area bit by bit like he was exploring a landmine, and was surprised to find that there was no trap under his feet. So he grabbed his socks and exerted so much force that he almost fell on his butt. Young Master Ma was a little confused, what's going on? Are all the traps disposable? Well, the people who designed the traps are really rubbish. Idiots without brains. Hee hee. This young master can come when he wants. Leave when he wants. Without anyone noticing. Purebloods are just bulls. At this time, the second half of the herbology class had already begun. He didn't have time to think about it, so he stuffed his socks into his pockets and ran to the greenhouse. Chapter 71. When Malfoy returned to the greenhouse panting, the whole class turned their heads to look at him. The good-tempered Professor Sprout also put his hands on his hips and waited for Malfoy to explain. Young Master Ma blushed and whispered, I have a stomachache. Amid the snickers of his classmates, he dejectedly returned to between Crabbe and Goyle. However, Malfoy had a wicked smile on his face, as if he had succeeded in his plot. He peeked at Lu Sen and the others through a pot of herbs, clenched his fists and said to himself, just wait. Sooner or later, I will discover your secret. When the time comes, I will ruin your reputation. You will become the laughing stock of everyone. He 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 he. Before he could fantasize for long, Crabbe beside him sniffed and said, it stinks. Did someone spill dragon poop? Gao also covered his nose and said, ugh. It stinks worse than dragon poop. More and more young wizards smelled the stench, especially Malfoy, who was about to faint. At this time, Pansy from Slytherin pointed at Malfoy and said, Draco. Your pocket is smoking. Malfoy quickly reached in and took out his socks. The smell suddenly became 10 times stronger. Even Professor Sprout, who had been dealing with organic fertilizers for many years, was almost suffocated. All the little wizards ran out of the greenhouse and waited for more than 10 minutes for the smell to dissipate. Professor Sprout stormed back to the greenhouse, picked up the source of pollution with a dung shovel and said, "Whose stinky socks are these?" An enthusiastic student named Lou in the crowd who did not want to reveal his name said, "Hey? There's a badge on the socks." After everyone identified him, they turned around and locked their eyes on young Master Malfoy, "It's not me. It's definitely not me. My feet don't stink." The smoked little wizard said, "Then take off your shoes and prove it." Malfoy had no choice but to do it in public. "Hey? I said my feet were stuck, would you believe me?" Malfoy was collectively denounced by the young wizards. Although he firmly argued that someone had framed him, he was hesitant to say who, when, and how. Professor Sprout finally concluded that Malfoy was deliberately disrupting the class and deducted 10 points from Slytherin. Malfoy thought the matter was over, but just in the evening he heard that the young wizards had given him a resounding nickname, Stinky Foot Malfoy. Young Master who had been spoiled since childhood, had never suffered such an injustice. He secretly vowed to get back at his enemies. He would not be a pureblood if he didn't take revenge. And there was also the revenge for the fight between the two of them last time. Let's settle the old and new accounts together. Actually, Lu Sen didn't do anything too extreme this time. The mini-delayed dung egg was just a slight punishment. The sticky curse was also temporary. It didn't last long, and it was automatically lifted in 3 days. Just don't take off your shoes for 3 days. It should be simple, right? On the other hand, Hagrid's dragon baby, Norbert, is growing at an amazing speed. In just 1 week, he has grown from no meat on his body to needing 2 grills. However, Lu Sen has given up eating the roasted baby dragon. Because Hagrid learned a trick for raising dragons from a book, feed a newborn dragon a bucket of brandy and chicken blood every half an hour. After a week, start feeding it dead mice. So now the air in the basement has become very dirty, smelling of alcohol, blood, burnt smell, and the stinky smell of dead rats. Every time Lu Sen comes over, he cleans everything up like crazy. Ron once reached out to touch Norbert and was nearly bitten. If Lu Sen hadn't been quick, Ron would have been knocked down by the poison in the dragon's fang. Only a small amount of the Norwegian Ridgeback's venom can make a person's fingers swell up like sausages. Without timely professional treatment, dizziness, coma, and even death will follow. Dragons are extremely dangerous creatures. The most troublesome magical creatures in the wizarding world are wild dragons. Ministries of magic in various countries have to frequently deal with troubles caused by dragons. If Muggles see a dragon, their memories must be erased immediately. Otherwise, the risk of exposing the wizarding world will increase. Hiding a wild dragon is not easy, for one reason, they are really good eaters. Even though Hagrid was full of energy, he couldn't bear to feed the little dragon day and night. Hagrid didn't get a full night's sleep during this period. After a week of torturing Norbert, Hagrid finally gave in and agreed to the suggestion given to him by several people to hand Norbert over to Ron's brother Charlie. But there is a problem: transporting a dragon to Romania is not easy. Fortunately, it is still very convenient to contact Charlie. I can use the magic phone. Of course, the ordinary version of the magic phone cannot communicate over such a long distance, but it can be combined with the magic signal amplifier. The signal amplifier is inspired by the pot lid receiver in the Muggle world. It looks like an upside-down umbrella. After unfolding it, just place it in the direction you want to communicate. With it, the communication distance of the magic phone can be greatly enhanced. Although the attenuation and interference of the magic signal over long distances make voice calls unstable, text message chatting is completely fine. Ron's phone not only has his second brother Charlie in Romania, but also his eldest brother Bill in Egypt. They chat with each other when they have nothing to do. They even have a chat group called Loving Family, with all the Weasleys in it. Ron told his second brother about Hagrid's situation in a text message, and he immediately expressed his willingness to take Norbert in. And it just so happened that several of his friends were coming to Romania, so he could be picked up next Saturday. For safety reasons, the meeting place was chosen to be the tallest tower in Hogwarts, the Astronomy Tower. This way they could descend directly from the clouds and avoid being seen. After all, carrying a dragon privately was a serious offense. In this regard, Lu Sen could only say that Charlie's friends were really close. In a word, they were willing to help him smuggle at the risk of going to jail. This relationship was beyond words. Hearing that they could get rid of Norbert, Ron and his friends were immediately happy. If they could make it to Saturday, they would win. However, during the days of waiting for Saturday, they found that Malfoy always found ways to get close to them and eavesdrop on their conversations. Lucien therefore suggested that sensitive words such as dragon, transport, and Romania should not be mentioned in public places. Everything has to be called by a code name. The code name for dragon is barbecue, the code name for transportation is express delivery, and the code name for Romania is post station. The conversation between Lucien and his friends became much safer. No one would associate words like barbecue, express delivery, and post station with the dangerous and illegal dragon breeding. But for Malfoy, the combination of these wrong information made him confused. When Friday came, even Hagrid had to look forward to it. Norbert couldn't even deal with him now, and he didn't even dare to let Lucien and his men get close to the basement. Finally it was Saturday night, the moon was dark, the wind was strong and the sky was overcast, perfect for smuggling, crossed out, and for secretly handling expedited express delivery of fresh produce. Lucien used an invisibility charm to turn himself invisible, while Harry, Ron, and Hermione all got into the invisibility cloak together. Their bodies could still squeeze in now, but they wouldn't be able to hide themselves later. Lucien was alone in the cold wind, feeling inexplicably sad. He was secretly thinking in his heart, should he tell Ginny about Ron and his female classmate wearing the same clothes? Originally, Neville also wanted to follow. Although Lucien believed that he could do the job, the risk would be greater if there were more people, so he let him stay in the dormitory to look after the house. The invisible foursome evaded Filch's patrol and arrived at Hagrid's house safely. He was already waiting at the door, wiping his tears and bidding farewell to Norbert. Chapter 72. Several people repeatedly assured that after arriving in Romania, Norbert and his peers would grow up healthy and happy. But Hagrid still couldn't bear to send Norbert away. He was worried that he would be lonely and starve to death. He showed it to a few people with tears in his eyes. Nobel, where is Mommy? Nobel. Norbert, who was in the large wooden box, used his powerful tail to hit the box with a bang 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 sound, causing the box to shake. Look, it knows me. It knows who its mother is. Hagrid said excitedly. But he completely ignored the fact that the little dragon was constantly messing with everything around it with its head, tail, and limbs. Even though Ron introduced the dragon farm in Romania from beginning to end 3 times, Hagrid was still worried about whether the staff there could take good care of his beloved dragons. When the time was up, the trio grabbed Hagrid, while Lucien resolutely, and happily, closed the lid of the wooden box and cast a spell on the box. Reinforced, fireproof, rainproof, floating, wear-resistant, soundproof, deodorizing, self-cleaning, fragrant. Lucien turned around and saw that it was Hermione who had also joined the enchantment operation and was skillfully casting both useful and useless spells on the box. The 2 men, unwilling to admit defeat, cast the free-of-charge spell on the box. After Lucien drew the last invisible rune on it, the 2 men finally announced with satisfaction that the task was accomplished. Hagrid's tears never stopped during the whole journey, and he said to the box, Nobel. Mommy has prepared brandy and your favorite dead mouse for you. Don't get hungry on the road. There is also your favorite stuffed bear, so you won't be lonely on the road. However, Lucien had already heard the sound of cloth tearing, and he guessed that the poor little bear had been chopped into pieces by Norbert. Lucien and Hermione cast almost all the spells they could use to make the sled on the box, and they did it without any scruples. So, theoretically this thing can carry people. After hearing the happy news, Ron sat on the box first, followed by Harry, and then the 2 of them pulled Hermione up. Harry, the box is only this big. Hermione, unfortunately, there's no room for you. Ron, well, how about we go ahead? What else could Lucien say? You guys come down, and the 4 of us will carry it away? He had no choice but to pull a long face and cover them with the invisibility cloak. The 3 people in the box completely disappeared from sight. All Harry said was, let's go. Then, 3 suppressed laughs were heard in the night, and they quickly faded away. Lucien comforted Hagrid for a while, then returned to the house and cleaned it up, adding the fragrant smell he had just learned from Hermione. After cleaning up the house, Lucien looked at the time. It was past the agreed time. It was estimated that Norbert had been picked up by now. So Lucien put the invisibility charm on himself again, said goodbye to Hagrid who was still wiping tears, and walked towards the castle alone. He didn't know where his friends were, so he strolled towards the dormitory alone. When passing through a corridor, he suddenly felt that someone was watching him. Lu Sen was startled and quickly activated the brain closure technique and quietly retreated to the corner. After observing for a while, Lu Sen breathed a sigh of relief, thinking it was an illusion. Just then, voices were heard in the distance. Lu Sen listened carefully and found that it was Professor McGonagall. "Why aren't you sleeping well so late at night? What do you three want to do? I couldn't believe it when Peeves reported to me." "Professor, we know we were wrong. Please don't deduct points from us. You can punish us in any way you want." "Yes, Professor. We know we were wrong." Lu Sen sighed. It was Harry and the others' voices just now. These three idiots were caught. The voices of several people were getting closer and closer. One of them was a boy's voice saying, "Professor. They are definitely doing something bad. I heard them say that there will be a barbecue delivery at the post station at 12 o'clock midnight. We should go to the Owl Tower to look for it." Professor McGonagall sighed, "All right, Mr. Malfoy. You are the most unreasonable. Look at you now. I can't believe you could do this." "I understand, Harry and the others made up a lame lie to play a prank on you, tricking you into going to the Owl Tower in the middle of the night, and you actually believed it. Is that right? You are simply..." At this time, several people had walked up to Lu Sen, and he saw his three friends and Malfoy. Malfoy was stinking all over at this moment, with sticky bird droppings of various colors all over his head, clothes, and even face. Lu Sen tried hard to hold back his laughter and lowered his head to look away from the miserable Malfoy. But he suddenly realized that the atmosphere was a little strange. Looking up, he saw Professor McGonagall staring at him expressionlessly. Not staring in his direction, but looking into Lu Sen's eyes. Glancing at the friends, he saw them all beating their chests and stamping their feet, while Malfoy showed a satisfied smile. Lu Sen broke out in a cold sweat. He touched his chest tremblingly and his eyes suddenly widened. "Oh my god! Where is my invisibility charm? Where did such a big invisibility charm go?" Instantly he realized who had arranged this for him. "Nothing to say, you are better than me. I admit defeat." Instantly, Lu Sen put on a confused expression and said, "Hey? Why am I here? How strange, am I sleepwalking again? Oh, what a coincidence. Good evening, Professor McGonagall. You look so good today. Oh, if nothing else, I'll go back to sleep. Ah. I'm so sleepy." But how could Professor McGonagall believe him? Several people were taken to her study on the second floor and received a severe criticism. "Ms. Granger, I thought you were such a smart and studious girl that you wouldn't do such a thing. You really disappoint me. I'm going to deduct 50 points from you." 50 points each. They were all shocked. 200 points were deducted at once. Tears instantly welled up in Hermione's eyes and she lowered her head sadly, regretting that she had forgotten such an important thing as the invisibility cloak in the tower, otherwise such a thing would not have happened. "Mr. Potter, I thought you were a little wizard who valued honor. I made an exception and selected you as the seeker for the Gryffindor team, and you did win 2 games very well, but this cannot be a reason for you to act recklessly." Harry also lowered his head in shame. He felt that he had let down Professor McGonagall and his Quidditch teammates. "Mr. Weasley. Alas, except for Percy, none of you gives me peace of mind." Ron's face turned red. The twins should share the blame. Finally, Professor McGonagall turned her head to Lu Sen and said, "As for you, Mr. Lu Sen, I saw that you haven't caused any trouble in this period of time, and I was thinking of helping you unseal your wand during the holidays. Oh, by the way, I see that you are not in a hurry to prove that you can be quiet. You have already made a lot of wands by yourself, right? Looking at the current situation, let's forget about unsealing it. Lu Sen, degree, this. Old dang. I won't let you go." Chapter 73. The next day, the 3 little ones were in an extremely low mood. Because of them, Gryffindor's score dropped by 200 points overnight. Many people thought it was a mistake, but when the news that Harry and his friends were caught while strolling at night was posted on the Hogwarts forum, Lu Sen and his 3 companions became the most unpopular people. Wherever they went, people would openly sneer at them. Even the honest Hufflepuffs and smart Ravenclaws treated them coldly. They had originally hoped that Gryffindor could defeat Slytherin. Malfoy from Slytherin became arrogant. He was also deducted 50 points by Snape, but he boasted that he had used his wisdom to trick several people out and made them deduct 200 points. Harry, who used to be loved and cared for wherever he went, was now unwelcome. Even during Quidditch training, his teammates didn't talk to him, and only called him Seeker when they had no choice. Only Fred and George smiled and advised them not to take it to heart, and that everyone would forget about it after a while. Hermione didn't speak for the whole day. She just read and studied quietly, trying to use the huge amount of books and test questions to make herself forget about the deducted points. The only one among the four who was not affected was Lu Sen. He ate and drank as usual, and was even a little excited. Because Professor McGonagall said that in addition to deducting points, they would also be punished by detention. Solitary confinement does not literally mean finding a small dark room to lock up the person who made the mistake. Instead, it means assigning work and tasks according to the situation. Detention meant doing drudgery like cleaning the metal room, sweeping the toilets, helping Filch deal with graffiti by little wizards, or recharging his magic spray gun. But Lu Sen knew that what was waiting for them was something else: patrolling the Forbidden Forest. If you think about it carefully, it is totally irrational to let a first-year wizard patrol the Forbidden Forest, which is full of dangers. What's more, the final exams are not long away. Why go there at this critical moment? It can only be said that Dumbledore has put a lot of effort into training Harry. But Lu Sen certainly couldn't just sit there and wait to die. In such a dangerous place, he had to be fully prepared. What pots and pans, cumin and chili peppers, iron pans, grills. Forbidden Forest? Wrong, start over. Lu Sen, Cedric and the twin brothers, the three R&D experts, met one by one and put their research results of this period into their backpacks. In exchange, Lu Sen took out his treasured Chinese specialties: spicy strips, instant noodles, Chinese pastries, Muggle soda, etc. as a thank you. The two sides handed over equipment in one hand and snacks in the other. If the atmosphere between the two sides was not harmonious, Lu Sen would really feel like a gangster picking up goods. Harry came back from his evening study and told Lu Sen, Ron, and Hermione worriedly, he accidentally saw Quirrell talking to someone in a very frightened manner. From the content of the conversation, it was guessed that someone was going to take action against the Philosopher's Stone guarded by Fluffy. But except for Lu Sen, the three little ones who had just been deducted points had lost their former spirit of exploration and hesitated to take further action. The next day, Lu Sen and others received a notice from Professor McGonagall: detention will start at 11 o'clock tonight, and look for Filch in the hall. The sullen trio thought this was the punishment they deserved and said nothing more. At 10:30, Lu Sen put on his backpack early and left the Gryffindor Tower with a few people with excitement on his face. When he arrived at the hallway first, Felza had just arrived. He held a magic shotgun in his hand, bowed slightly to Lu Sen and said, Master Lu Sen, I didn't expect you to be implicated. I went to Professor McGonagall, but she insisted on having you put in detention together. Lu Sen didn't expect Filch to intercede for him. He said indifferently, It's okay, Argus. This is an adventure for me too. I've always wanted to go to the Forbidden Forest. But Filch looked around nervously. Seeing that Harry and the others hadn't come close yet, he whispered, You don't know. I heard that things in the Forbidden Forest are not very peaceful recently. Be careful if you encounter anything unusual. He organized his words and said, I know you are very powerful. But the things inside are very evil. By this time, Harry and the other three had already walked up to them dejectedly, so Filch dropped the subject, but was still worried about Lu Sen's safety. As soon as they arrived, Malfoy also rushed over. Harry and the others immediately showed disgusted expressions. Malfoy smiled wickedly, gloating over the fact that several people had been deducted 200 points. Seeing that all the punished little wizards had arrived, Filch took the lead and walked out of the castle. After taking a few steps, he stopped and waved towards the darkness behind him. Lu Sen had already discovered that it was Peeves. After seeing Lu Sen approaching, it hid in the dark and dared not come out. Seeing Filch waving, Peeves mustered up the courage to fly over and floated not far in front of them, using the faint blue light it emitted as a night light. Seeing Lu Sen looking at him with a smile, Peeves said quickly, Good evening, Master Lu. Master Lu Sen. Lu Sen nodded with satisfaction, Good evening Peeves, I heard that you have caught many little wizards who made mistakes recently, you did a good job. But Peeves was even more terrified, for it was he who had caught Harry and the others. He trembled immediately, and the faint light he emitted dimmed. Lu Sen smiled and said, Don't be nervous, I don't blame you. What I mean is that you found something to do besides pranks, which is good. Keep up the good work. Peeves looked at the little devil Lu Sen and then at Filch. Seeing that he was really not blamed, he felt relieved and returned to the team to continue acting as a head-shaped night light. The moonlight is bright tonight, but when dark clouds pass by, it becomes pitch black. At this time, Peeves' role is highlighted, and it is quite useful. Everyone was very quiet along the way, but if Lu Sen was not among the young wizards, Filch would definitely have ridiculed the few people who made mistakes and complained about the fact that the headmaster did not allow him to use torture instruments. When we got to Hagrid's house, he was putting a collar on the Hound Fang. "I didn't expect you guys to come so early," Filch hummed in a sarcastic tone, which was considered an answer. But he immediately whispered to Lu Sen, "Master, you must follow this big fool closely. He may not be very smart, but he is big enough. If you encounter danger, hide behind him." Lu Sen shook his head. These two people have never gotten along and disliked each other. They will have to mediate in the future. In a sense, one is a doorman and the other is a security guard. They should help each other, but they secretly create a chain of contempt. Filch was to blame for more of the mistakes, and there was a reason why he was unpopular all these years. He speaks in a sarcastic way and has a weird temper. But he is not completely useless. No matter how dirty or tiring the work is, Filch will try his best to complete it, even if he does not know magic and uses stupid methods to make 10 times the effort to complete it. He has been working diligently for many years, working late and getting up early, and not asking for overtime pay. Since we need to resolve the conflict, it's better to do it now than to wait for a better day. Chapter 74. When Filch had handed over the little wizard and was about to leave, Lu Sen stopped him. "Argus! Please wait a moment," Lu Sen called out. Filch immediately put on a kind smile. He wiped the magic sprayer that he always held in his arms and said, "I knew you could use it. Take it, young master. It's very useful," said the old administrator, handing over his treasure with some reluctance. Lu Sen took it, fiddled with it skillfully, and returned it to the other party and said, "Agus, thank you. But I think you misunderstood. I don't want to borrow your spray gun." Filch held the magic sprayer in his arms again with doubt. He asked puzzledly, "What do you want me to do?" Lu Sen brought him to Hagrid and said, "I heard that you two have some small conflicts. I think we are all friends, there is no need to be unhappy. We are all colleagues in the same school, we should be more understanding and less alienated. Can you both make concessions?" Hagrid didn't expect Lu Sen to be a peacemaker in this matter. Filch always targeted him and said bad things about him behind his back. Thinking of this, Hagrid snorted and turned his head away. Filch's reaction was similar. The conflict between the two had been going on for a long time. Lu Sen thought for a moment and said, "Argus, you may not know that Hagrid has a very kind heart. He just speaks bluntly and does things roughly. He is very reliable. And he is very righteous. Do you know? I can trust my life to him." Hagrid was very angry when he heard the first half of the sentence, thinking that Lu Sen was siding with outsiders. But after hearing the latter part, he suddenly felt embarrassed. He scratched his head, chuckled and said, "Ha ha ha. I'm not that good." Filch forced a smile for Lu Sen's sake, but he still did not approve of Hagrid in his heart. The two people's speaking habits, working styles, and every other aspect are different, they are completely poles apart. But Lu Sen's next sentence revealed a killer trick. In fact, the magic sprayer was sponsored by Hagrid. "Maybe you don't know? Hagrid has always provided materials for my magic experiments. When I said I wanted to make you a handy tool, Hagrid took out his treasured unicorn tail hair without hesitation. That thing sells for 10 galleons each. He gave me a handful. Got it?" Hearing this, Ron's eyes widened, and his friends were all stunned. Even the wealthy Master Ma was shocked. He looked at the unkempt ranger in surprise. He didn't expect that the other party was so rich. Filch didn't understand any of this. He was just surprised that Hagrid would help him. And the big guy was willing to take out such an expensive thing. Just as Hagrid was about to say something, he was stopped by Lu Sen's eyes. He smiled instantly and understood who Lu Sen was really supporting. Lu Sen continued to deceive. He said, "Take it and use it. If it can help Filch, you can take as much as you want. If it's not enough, I'll go to the Forbidden Forest to find it." Filch's hand holding the magic spray gun was shaking a little. This was how he got the treasure in his hand. Hagrid felt that Lu Sen was exaggerating a bit, so he wanted to stop him. But Lu Sen said first, "I'm sorry, Hagrid, I promised you not to tell. But I can't help it. Oh. Hagrid, you always do good things without leaving your name. This is too disadvantageous. Hearing this, Filch lowered his head in shame and looked at the tall figure in front of him again. Thinking back to the time when he was targeted everywhere, he felt a little embarrassed. Finally, his old face turned red and he struggled to utter, "Thank you, Hagrid." Hagrid never thought that this stubborn and annoying guy would ever give in. He was instantly overjoyed and forgot most of the bad things he had said to Filch. Hagrid waved his hand and said, "Hey, it's nothing. Like Lucien said, we are all colleagues. I'm just helping you." Haha. After a few words, the rift between them was reduced a lot, but it was impossible for them to shake hands and make peace all at once. It would be great if there was a good turning point. Lucien then pointed out Filch's little faults, such as, he was conscientious in enforcing discipline, but always spoke in a sarcastic tone. He lived frugally and never took bribes, but he did not pay attention to personal hygiene and his clothes were dirty and shabby. When faced with difficulties, he only knew how to work hard, but didn't know how to adapt, etc. Filch was sometimes embarrassed and sometimes proud. Finally, Lucien suggested, "Argus. I know that it is your duty to catch little wizards, but I suggest that you change your image. You can be like Snape, aloof and quiet, but more oppressive. Right? If you ask the little wizards who they are most afraid of in school, they will definitely say without hesitation, Snape. I'll design it for you later. When the time comes, you can just stand there and the little wizards will behave themselves without saying a word. Wouldn't that give you a greater sense of accomplishment?" The more Filch listened, the brighter his eyes became, and Peeves was spinning happily above his head, as if thinking about something. Seeing that the time was almost up, Lucien said, "Okay, let's stop here for today. You can go back early. I'll come find you when I'm free." Filch said gratefully, "Thank you, Master Lucien. Then I'll go back first. I wish you all the best in the Forbidden Forest." After walking a few steps, he turned his head and forced out an ugly smile, and said to Hagrid, You are doing well too." Hagrid watched Filch walk away with a smile on his face. This was the first time he had managed to win the game in all these years. Lucien coughed twice before Hagrid came back to his senses. He suddenly remembered his patrol mission and said seriously, "Now that everyone is here, let's set off quickly. Follow me to patrol the Forbidden Forest." Malfoy's eyes widened instantly. Only now did he understand what the detention was about. "What? Into the Forbidden Forest? You're kidding. That's too much. I heard there are werewolves in there." But his complaints had no effect. Hagrid gave a few instructions like stay close to the team and don't run around and then set off. Lucien quickly raised his hand and said, "Wait a minute. Give me a minute. I need to put on my equipment." Hagrid shrugged helplessly and said, "Okay, hurry up." "But do you still need equipment?" Lucien had already taken out a bunch of supplies from his backpack and distributed them to his friends. Enhanced protective vest that can withstand rifle bullets. With multiple magical defense effects, when encountering high impact, it will pop out airbags like Quidditch protective suits. One set for each of the three little ones. The matching protective helmet is stronger than the one worn by Quidditch goalkeepers and comes with a pure heart charm and a golden bell charm. One for each person. Golden bell talisman, divine travel talisman, exorcism talisman, healing talisman, one set per person, 5 of each. In addition to these, Lucien also gave each of them a magic shotgun. The shape is still the classic shotgun style, but it is colorful, light, and beautiful. Made of environmentally friendly plastic. Chapter 75. Lucien purchased a large number of toy guns from the Muggle world. Some time ago, he and the Weasley twins tinkered with them in the dormitory whenever they had free time. After Filch's experiment was successful, the others made a few more with ease. The toy gun has been completely modified and reinforced, and has clever magic runes engraved inside. As long as you pull the trigger, the magic power stored in the magic bullet will be extracted, converted into preset magic, and fired out through the barrel. However, unlike Filch's, the 3 swords Lucien took out were not engraved with the 3 sets of housekeeping magic. Cleaning, repairing spell, stop spell. But it is magic that is more suitable for exploring the Forbidden Forest. Ron, your spells are the disintegration curse, the slicing curse, and the piercing curse. You are mainly responsible for attacking. Don't move around, Be careful of accidental discharge. Ron took it excitedly. I've wanted to try it for a long time. But the toys you gave us to play with before were all unmodified Muggle toys. Finally there's the real thing. Harry, this is for you. It has a leg-locking curse, a petrifying curse, and an expelliarmus curse. It can be used to achieve a surprise victory if you choose the right time. Harry was stunned for a moment, then took the magic shotgun and asked in confusion, why is mine so weak? Is there anyone like Ron's? I think his is pretty good. Lu Sen chuckled, believe me, you will like these spells. Especially the expelliarmus. It is so powerful. Harry sighed helplessly and looked at Ron with envy. When Hermione saw Lu Sen looking at her, she blinked expectantly. She also wanted a weapon for self-defense. Miss Know-It-All has one too, of course. Take it. Yours has the stunning spell, the armor spell, and the healing spell. It's an attack, defense, and medical spell all in one. I'll leave the logistics support to you. Seeing several people curiously looking at the magic shotguns in their hands, Lu Sen added, this is an upgraded version, using magazines to feed ammunition. One magazine has 10 magic bullets. Take the spare magazines, 3 per person. Harry, Ron, you two teach Hermione how to load and change the bullets, and familiarize yourself with the mode conversion. Don't make mistakes when shooting. In fact, Lu Sen had long wanted to give the magic shotgun to the 3 people. But on the one hand, everyone has been in a bad mood recently and, led by Hermione, has been reviewing desperately, trying to forget the trouble of losing points with the massive amount of test questions. Secondly, Lu Sen only retrieved the equipment from his R&D partners during the day, and raced against time to complete the debugging before the confinement. Lu Sen said to Hagrid, who was holding a hunting crossbow, I'm sorry Hagrid, time is tight, so we can only make a few of these. I'll customize a special weapon for you when I have time. Hagrid waved his hand and said indifferently, it's okay. I've been using a crossbow and it's fine. Few creatures in the Forbidden Forest can hurt me. By the way, where are yours? You didn't prepare any for yourself, did you? It was only then that Harry and the other two noticed that Lu Sen had nothing in his hands. Lu Sen laughed and said, how could there not be any? Mine is here. As he spoke, he raised his arms and pulled out 2 pistols from his armpits. Ding 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 ding. Mine is the pistol model. Those are 2 classic M1911 pistols, in carrot knife color schemes. Seeing that everyone was ready to go, Hagrid began to divide them into groups. Harry, Hermione, Ron, you two form a group of 3. The 3 little guys had guns in their hands, but they were not panicking. They looked at each other and seemed eager to try. Hagrid continued, then Lu Sen, Draco, and I will form a team. Let's split up. The 3 little ones were stunned. Ron said in a trembling voice, Hagrid. Do we have to separate? Hagrid nodded helplessly, we have to separate. I recently found traces of unicorn blood. Something is killing them in the Forbidden Forest. We have to find that poor fellow. Let's put fangs in your hands. When you find a unicorn, send a green signal to the sky. When you are in danger, send red quotes to the sky. The trio now had the hound Yaya, and they had some support. But Lu Sen knew that although Yaya looked tall and mighty, he was actually a cowardly weakling. The 2 teams started to move and walked into the Forbidden Forest in 2 directions. The tall and sturdy trees blocked the moonlight, and the hazy mist made everything in the distance dim and shadowy. The deeper you go into the Forbidden Forest, the quieter and more empty it becomes, except for the rustling sound of stepping on fallen leaves. There are also the occasional roars of beasts and strange bird calls in the distance, making the atmosphere here even more eerie and terrifying. Hagrid was in front holding the oil lamp, with Lu Sen and Malfoy following behind. Malfoy kept muttering, my dad would be furious if he knew I was punished to patrol the Forbidden Forest. He is the governor of Hogwarts. How can a pure-blood wizard be allowed to do such rough work? What's that sound? Lu Sen and Hagrid stopped and listened carefully. It was Yaya's voice. The 2 groups had just been separated for 2 minutes and had not walked very far. Fang's voice came from far away and it ran to its owner Hagrid's feet with a pitiful look. At this time, Harry and his 3 friends also caught up with it, panting. Yaya got frightened and just ran over here. We didn't catch its rope, said Harry, breathlessly. Hagrid was trying to comfort the timid Fang, and when he heard this he asked worriedly, are you in any danger? Ron, one of the men, said embarrassedly, "It was a spider that fell on my head." "Sorry." Lu Sen sighed. Ron's fear of spiders was really difficult to deal with. Hagrid shook his head and thought that they had to regroup. "How about this, I'll take Hermione and Ron in one group. Harry, you'll be in one group with Lu Sen and Malfoy. Lu Sen will lead Fang." Harry nodded. With this arrangement, at least Hermione and the others would be much safer. At this time, the frightened Master Ma couldn't help but whispered, "Hey Lu Sen, what's the gun in their group? Is that what it's called? Can I have one too? They have Hagrid in their group." Lu Sen, haha. "Do you know how difficult it is to make a magic gun? You want me to use it? Go cool off." Malfoy took 2 steps closer and said, "Lu Sen, we only have one big gun in our group, how can it be enough? Give me one, and I can help you share the danger." Lu Sen laughed, "Ha! That's wishful thinking. Do you know what material the magic gun is made of? It's very precious." Malfoy asked anxiously, "How much? I'll buy it." Seeing Lu Sen looking at him like a fool, Malfoy remembered that the last thing this man lacked was money. But he was really unsure, what if a werewolf popped out in this gloomy and terrifying forbidden forest? He lowered his voice and said, "I have a lot of precious magic books at home. If you help me once, I will lend you 2 next semester. How about that?" Lu Sen's eyes lit up. Malfoy was one of the pure-blood families with a long history, and his family was wealthy. Lucius was also a member of the underworld. The magic book he mentioned might really be a good thing. So Lu Sen said calmly, 10 books. I'll choose when the time comes." Malfoy's eyes widened immediately. This is taking advantage of someone's misfortune. If I find out about the 2 books, I'll be beaten up. And 10 books? I promise you that I am a... At this moment, some unknown animal in the depths of the forbidden forest let out a shrill cry, which was creepy to hear. Young Master Ma's face changed, and he said hurriedly, "Okay, okay, okay. Deal." Lu Sen smiled kindly and looked at Malfoy in a more favorable light. He turned and walked towards Hagrid's group, and exchanged Hermione's magic shotgun for an M1911 with a carrot knife color. Malfoy happily took the spray gun, and suddenly he felt relieved. He suddenly understood why Filch was holding on to this thing. It really made him feel safe. Chapter 76. A lot of time had been wasted before, so Lu Sen decided to speed up. He trotted along holding Fang, followed by Harry and Malfoy, who were panting. Seeing the 2 people behind him falling further and further away, Lu Sen slowed down. "You 2 are so weak. You're so tired after just running a few steps. Get up earlier and I'll take you to do morning exercises. With your physical fitness, how are you going to play Quidditch well? How are you going to chase girls?" Lu Sen was ridiculing the 2 of them when suddenly Yaya smelled something. The 3 of them leaned in to take a look and saw a liquid that glowed silvery white. Unicorn blood. Lu Sen dipped a drop of blood and rubbed it solemnly. Although he had never studied criminal investigation, this drop of blood was obviously fresh. He could still feel the warmth between his fingers. Lu Sen stood up quickly and said to the 2 of them, "Maybe they are nearby. Get ready to fight." Harry held up the magic shotgun expertly and looked around nervously. Malfoy followed suit and held the gun like Harry did. Lu Sen reminded, "If you encounter something strange, aim before shooting. Don't fire accidentally." Harry quickly looked at Malfoy and found that he was actually acting very decently. "What? Is it difficult? I've been watching how you used it from the beginning," Malfoy said proudly. Harry ignored it and looked around nervously. Yaya sniffed the blood on the ground, found a direction and continued to move forward. Soon, several people stopped and found the target under a fallen dead tree. In the dark forbidden forest, only when dark clouds passed by did the moonlight shine through the shadows of the trees, but the unicorn emitted a holy glow that could be vaguely seen in the darkness. Its body was covered in blood and its hooves were still trembling. Lu Sen exclaimed in surprise, "It's still alive. Save it." But just as they approached a few steps, a head suddenly raised up in the darkness. His entire face was covered in a hood, so his features could not be seen, and there was a silver-white blood stain at the corner of his mouth, which made him look hideous. He was drinking the blood of the unicorn. Malfoy screamed and turned to run, but was tripped by a tree root under his feet. Harry's hand holding the magic shotgun was shaking a little, and the scar on his forehead felt stinging like fire, but he did not step back. At this moment, the figure stood up, his body was so light that he felt like a ghost. Lu Sen knew who this was, Professor Quirrell and his boss, Lao Fu. They came out to drink the unicorn's blood to delay death. Lu Sen stretched his neck and took out the thunder wand with excitement. At this time, Voldemort was still in a weak state, and he drank the cursed unicorn blood, which was perfect for taking advantage of the situation. No, it was perfect for a cross-level challenge. But it is impossible to just rush up and chop. Harry! Malfoy! Come here and shoot him first. Don't hit the unicorn. After saying that, he pulled out his only remaining modified pistol and pulled the trigger. Da da da. Da da da. The sound was not loud, but each shot would emit a breaking spell. Harry and Malfoy also picked up their magic spray guns and fired at each other one after another. Quirrell in the cloak had no time to react before he was saturated with bullets. He was staggering. His body was shaking constantly. Unlike Harry and the others who became more and more excited as the fight went on, Lu Sen felt something was more and more wrong. Although the magic capacity of the disintegration curse in his modified pistol is not as high as the shotgun version, it is comparable to the real guns of Muggles. But after firing so many shots, the other party was just staggering in place in a panic. This shouldn't be the case. And Harry and Malfoy's magic shotguns come with standard magic reserves. Each shot is about the same as a full-strength attack from a 3rd or 4th year wizard. Even a stone statue should be broken by now. With 3 clicks, all the bullets in the guns of several people were emptied. Chi Luo's figure still did not fall down, but slowly stood up. He also floated towards the direction of several people like a ghost. Lu Sen changed the magazine in 1 second. He took a step forward and said solemnly, "Hurry up and restock your ammunition. I'll stop him." As he spoke, Lu Sen continued to pull the trigger. Day! 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 But a scene that frightened Lu Sen appeared. After recovering from his shock, Quirrell took out his magic wand and casually deflected the magic that Lu Sen fired from his pistol. Lu Sen was sweating profusely, and he freed one hand to quickly activate the Golden Bell Talisman and the Divine Movement Talisman on his body. He continued to fire 2 shots rhythmically, and at the same time rushed forward at the right time. With the help of the magic talisman, Lu Sen's body was as fast as lightning, and he had circled from the front to Chi Luo's left side in a breath. And activated the Thunder Flame Lightning Sword halfway. A fierce look flashed across Lu Sen's eyes, and he thought, "No matter who you are, I'll chop you up first. Die." But Quirrell turned his head at the critical moment and quickly recited a complicated spell. In an instant, a translucent shield appeared out of thin air, just blocking him. The thunder blade seemed to have chopped on a piece of tough cowhide. However, the level of this shield was at least 1 hairpin bend lower than Dumbledore's. Lu Sen could clearly feel that the translucent shield had dents and cracks. An evil arc appeared at the corner of his mouth, and the energy of the Thunder Flame Light Sword in his hand began to surge. But at this moment, a terrifying picture suddenly flashed through Lu Sen's mind. An evil, twisted face showed a creepy and crazy smile. He was standing on a sea of blood and corpses, and behind him was a burning city and screaming Muggles. Lu Sen's eyes began to waver, and at this moment, the thunder wand in his hand suddenly emitted an arc of electricity, which gave Lu Sen a shock. His eyes regained clarity, and he immediately began to use occlumency. It was Voldemort. He was using legilimency to interfere with him. It was just a brief moment of distraction, and the magic shield in Quirrell's hand changed again as he chanted. The blood of the unicorn on the ground was attracted and seeped into the cracks of the shield. The shield suddenly changed from a tough cowhide texture to a swamp-like texture. It also emitted an evil cold light. Lu Sen only felt an inexplicable suction force begin to frantically devour the magic power in his lightsaber. And it continued to strengthen the shield itself. Lu Sen was furious, and the Thunder Flame Light Sword changed rapidly, from normal mode to 40-meter broadsword mode. This was Lu Sen's first time facing a life and death test. The magic power in his body was instantly mobilized by a strong and determined will, and it madly poured into the Thunder Wand, emitting an unprecedented dazzling brilliance. Harry and the other man in the distance were dazzled so much that they couldn't open their eyes, and they felt an extremely dangerous aura rising steadily. Chi Luo's shield could still absorb enough energy to strengthen itself in the first few seconds, but when Lu Sen's spirit, energy and soul were united and the Thunder Flame Light Sword burst out with highly concentrated light and heat, the shield instantly began to collapse. The Thunder Flame Sword, which was suddenly freed from its suppression, was like a dam releasing a flood. It instantly released all of its accumulated power. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning several dozen meters long struck down. Ah! Lu Sen, whose magic power was somewhat out of control, had red light in his eyes and shouted out. Instantly, a loud bang came from under the sword. In the direction pointed by the sword tip, all the trees within a few dozen meters were reduced to ashes. A gully about 1 meter deep and emitting scorching hot steam appeared on the ground. The soil inside was burned by the extremely high temperature and instantly turned into red lava. The smoke cleared, and Lu Sen stood there panting. His magic power was completely exhausted in the explosion just now. But what was better than the time when he chopped the Pippy ghost to pieces was that his magic power recovered much faster. After taking a few breaths, the dizziness had dissipated a lot. Lu Sen spat on the scorched earth and angrily said in his heart, "Damn! He got away." At the moment when Lu Sen swung his sword, Qi Luo suddenly dodged to the side. Lu Sen, who was in a state of magic explosion, had no time to adjust his direction. However, Lu Sen believed that even if the opponent was swept by the aftermath of the Thunder Flame Sword, he would not be able to survive. The power that he had never seen before was too terrifying. Lu Sen looked at the forest on fire in the distance, shook his head, and then walked towards Harry and Malfoy with unsteady steps. At this moment, Harry suddenly exclaimed, "Watch out behind you!" Lu Sen's pupils suddenly shrank and he quickly turned his head to look. I saw Quirrell, covered in a black cloak, flying towards him like lightning. Lu Sen quickly raised his hand and was about to activate the Thunder Flame Lightning Sword again. But the other party got there first. He grabbed Lu Sen's wrist holding the Thunder Wand with one hand, and grabbed his neck with the other hand. Lu Sen was caught off guard by the sudden attack, and felt that the opponent's hand strength was surprisingly strong. Even if he activated the Thunder Flame Lightning Sword, it would be useless at this angle. Lu Sen, who was unable to breathe, quickly started thinking. He used the Chinese object control technique, controlled the Thunder Wand to fly up, and then smashed it on the opponent's head. With a thud, Qi Luo let go instantly and almost fainted. Lu Sen showed a cruel smile and kneed Qi Luo hard between his legs. Quirrell immediately let out a shrill scream. It was long and desperate. There were also two faint sounds of shattering. "What are you standing there for? Help me!" After shouting, Lu Sen quickly ran away 2 steps to pick up the Thunder Wand not far away. Harry was the first to react, raised the magic shotgun and pulled the trigger. Malfoy also hurriedly fired 2 shots in the direction of Quirrell. As a result, a scene that drove Lu Sen crazy appeared. As soon as he picked up the wand, he was hit by a scattered spell. The wand instantly flew out of his hand and flew far away. Then he felt itchy all over his body and a warm current flowing. "Is this a healing spell? You two stop right there, that's a scattered beam, I was hit too. And you have adjusted the mode to the wrong one, idiot!" Lu Sen shouted anxiously. But at this moment, Quirrell stood up. He had just been burned by the high temperature of the thunder flame, and had suffered extensive burns on his body. Coupled with the fatal blow of chicken flying and eggs broken, he had already fallen into a stiff state. But Harry and the others' shotguns were obviously set to expelliarmus and healing spells when they were reloading. Quirrell didn't have a wand in his hand just now, so Harry's expelliarmus didn't work on him. Instead, Lu Sen next to him was affected by the scattered magic. Malfoy cast several consecutive healing spells to ease Quirrell's pain, giving him a chance to catch his breath. Lu Sen quickly pulled out the number 1 spare wand from the wand sheath at his waist, and swung his hand to create 2 shattered movements. Unfortunately, Lu Sen's casting speed was still far behind his opponent. Quirrell had already picked up the wand at this time. Although his steps were unsteady, he still easily blocked Lu Sen's attack with a wave of his hand. Lu Sen was a little depressed. His speed was not as fast as others, and his magic wand was not convenient to use. How could he fight? No matter how many magic wands he had, it would be useless. "Hey? I have a lot of magic wands." Lu Sen's eyes lit up, and while he continued to cast a few spells to hold the opponent back, he reached out and pulled out 3 spare wands from his waist. He then poured all his magic power into them. Then he used the method that was forbidden in the Chinese art of controlling things to squeeze the magic wands crazily. When it reached the critical point, Lu Sen found the right time to control the 3 magic wands to fly over. Quirrell was still a little confused. Why did he throw away his wands without saying anything? And 3 wands at once? But when the 3 magic wands flew to him in a triangular shape, he felt a wave from them that made his heart palpitate. Then, boom! 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 3 explosions were heard. The rapidly expanding flames were mixed with chaotic magical turbulence. The power was quite astonishing. The magic weapon exploded. The effect is quite good. Lu Sen gave a wicked smile and took out 6 more magic wands and threw them over. Quirrell, covered in dust, fled in a panic under the continuous attacks of the self-destructive wand, and his mentality was somewhat unbalanced. With no other choice, he gave up the attack, covered his body with the tattered cloak, and disappeared into the depths of the forbidden forest with a few flashes like a ghost. Chapter 77. Lu Sen was a little unhappy that he failed to kill Quirrell, but he couldn't blame Harry or Malfoy. Their performance was already pretty good. In the eerie and terrifying forbidden forest, they were very brave to raise their guns and shoot at the weird and terrifying unicorn killer. Thinking of this, Lu Sen suddenly turned around, ran a few steps and squatted beside the unicorn. Lu Sen said to himself, I almost forgot about you. Fortunately, I didn't strike you with my sword just now. Otherwise, you would be dead. I put my hand on the unicorn's chest and felt it again. It was quiet and there was no heartbeat. When I first found you, you were still kicking your legs. It's only been a few minutes. Can't you even hold it in for a moment? At this time, Harry and Malfoy also came to the unicorn. Seeing such a holy and pure creature lying in a pool of blood, both of them felt a deep sense of regret in their hearts. Lu Sen touched the unicorn's smooth and soft fur, felt the gradually cooling corpse, and couldn't help but blame himself. If I were stronger and more decisive, maybe, well, there is no maybe. It would be too tiring to regret everything I do. After figuring it out, Lu Sen pulled up his sleeves, picked up the thunder wand and said to the two, have you ever heard of try everything possible? Let me show you. Harry and Malfoy were stunned for a moment. They looked at each other, and when they saw that Lu Sen was going to do it for real, they quickly stepped back. Lu Sen closed his eyes and took a breath. After a few seconds, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes and he said, fluorescent glow. The thunder wand suddenly emitted a soft misty white light illumination magic, healing light mode. The healing light on the magic wand covered the unicorn's body, and the unicorn, which was already emitting a holy glow, suddenly became even brighter. The fatal wound of the unicorn was on its neck. The healing light slowly moved, like a living veil. After covering the wound, it emitted a brighter light, and at the same time, streams of black mist were forced out. After the black mist left the unicorn's body, it vaguely formed a number of roaring and ferocious human heads, but they were quickly eliminated by the escaping white light. Lu Sen felt a sense of emptiness. Firstly, his magic power had just exploded once, and secondly, this healing light required a lot of magic power and spirit. When I was treating Snape's leg injury before, I didn't feel this way at all. It was as simple as putting a lid on an overturned water bottle. In comparison, the unicorn's wound is like a dam in India. Not only is there a large amount of water inside, but it is also overflowing with force. Lu Sen's forehead was covered with sweat, and he quickly called out to his friends, hurry! Help! The two of them were in a panic for a while, but this time they made no mistake. Malfoy made sure that the magic shotgun in his hand was in healing mode, and then he pulled the trigger at the unicorn's wound. Harry took out a stack of talisman papers, found the healing talismans in order, injected magic power into them and stuck them around the wound. Finally, Lu Sen felt the changes. No more black gas flowed out of the wound, and the silver blood stopped flowing out. The horrible wound slowly began to wriggle and close. Lu Sen endured it and persevered until the skin and flesh on the unicorn's neck were completely healed. At the moment of recovery, suddenly the pressure disappeared, replaced by a soft feedback. The unicorn on the ground lit up under the inspiration of the healing light. And the white light on its body also had a healing effect, giving people a warm feeling. After a thrilling battle, the three people who immediately started the rescue seemed to have less physical and mental fatigue when they were illuminated by the light. Especially Lu Sen, who cast the healing light, benefited the most. His nearly exhausted magic power was quickly replenished by a soft magic power, nourishing every cell in his body. Lu Sen was so comfortable that he just wanted to open his mouth and shout Titian roar. But he knew that now was not the right time, so he resisted the urge to shout. But soon he discovered that this gentle and holy magic began to fade, and it conveyed a sense of gratitude and regret. Lu Sen guessed that this was the unicorn's vague consciousness saying goodbye to him. It felt that death had not left. At this time, 3 horse hoof beats sounded behind the three of them, but when Harry and Malfoy turned around, they saw that the three coming were not horses or unicorns, but had the bodies of horses but the upper bodies of humans. They were centaurs. Hagrid also came over along the narrow sword mark left by Lu Sen. They had actually been observing from a distance for a while, but seeing that Lu Sen was doing his best to rescue people, they did not make a sound to disturb him. But Lu Sen ignored all this, he hadn't given up yet. The healing light on the thunder wand in his hand became brighter and brighter, but it gradually retreated and finally returned to the wand. The pitch-black wand began to glow brightly, with an electric current surging through it. Gradually, Hagrid and his three companions in the distance heard the squeaking sound of electricity. A centaur with a silver mane and a horse body had a strange look in his eyes. Mars was so bright tonight, and the stars had already predicted everything tonight. But this little foal, the centaur's name for the cubs of the same tribe and humans, was going to break the predetermined fate. At this time, the thunder in Lu Sen's hand had accumulated to the peak, and the entire thunder wand was wrapped in blue-purple lightning. The highly concentrated and compressed lightning was like it had just been caught from a storm. Brilliant and sacred. When Lu Sen's thunder suddenly struck, everyone's eyes were instantly blinded by the dazzling lightning. At the same time, a loud explosion was heard. Boom! The sound shook the 9 heavens, as if it struck the soul directly. The light faded, and just as everyone was recovering from the loud noise and bright light, the next sound they heard almost made them fall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Lu Sen was performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Come here, Harry, Malfoy, both of you do this to me, press your hands, and keep the same rhythm as me. When the two of them clumsily took over Lu Sen's CPR, Lu Sen pulled out the hawthornwood wand in the nick of time and cast a fresh breath towards the unicorn's mouth. Then he held the unicorn's head and called out, "Come-ang. I know you can hear me. Try harder. You are not dead yet. Come back to life. There are many female unicorns waiting to have cubs with you. Ah. I don't know whether you are a male or a female, but this is what I mean. Come on. Otherwise, I will give you another electric shock." At Lu Sen's affectionate call, babbling, the unicorn's eyes trembled. Seeing the movement, Lu Sen hurriedly used the thunder wand to cast the healing light again. He glanced at the hawthornwood wand in his left hand and simply tried to use the healing light. Although the power is several levels lower, it can still be considered a proper dual-wielding spell, right? As Lu Sen thought about it, 2 rays of healing light in his hands covered the unicorn. After a person dies, cells lose their energy and oxygen supply and die in large numbers every second, especially brain cells. If this continues for a certain period of time, irreversible damage will be caused. Although Lu Sen doesn't know whether magical creatures like unicorns also follow this theory, using the healing light to make further efforts will definitely help it. This time, Lu Sen's healing light quickly connected and resonated with the unicorn's holy light, and Lu Sen felt joy and hope on it. Soon, Lu Sen felt a strong heartbeat in the healing light. Then came the second and third heartbeats. The unicorn came back to life. Lu Sen's healing light brought healing effects to the entire unicorn, and the unicorn's feedback also gave Lu Sen's healing light a sacred and pure attribute. The two complemented each other and intertwined. This time, Lu Sen felt the return of kindness more clearly. The unicorn's vigorous vitality and blood were infused into his body through the healing light. After a while, Lu Sen's magic power and physical strength were fully restored, and he felt more solid and full. It seemed that his potential was much stronger. The unicorn slowly opened its eyes. Its beautiful gem-like eyes were pure and sacred. It snorted loudly, indicating to Lu Sen that it was fine. The latter understood what he meant, extinguished the healing light, and pulled Harry and the other man back a few steps. The unicorn flipped over nimbly and stood up again. Its hair is soft and flowing, moving without wind and without a trace of dust on it. Its horn stands proudly, shining like a diamond in the moonlight, sparkling brightly. All words that describe beauty, purity, and beauty are not enough to fully describe the holiness and beauty of the unicorn. It jumped up, stood on its hind legs, raised its front legs high, and kicked in the air. At the same time, it made a melodious and loud horse neigh. It seemed to announce its return to the world. Then it lowered its head and rubbed Lu Sen affectionately, with tears flashing in its eyes, expressing its joy of surviving the disaster and its gratitude to Lu Sen. Lu Sen had never dealt with horses, let alone unicorns. But he stroked the horse's mane like an old friend and whispered in its ear, "Don't be afraid, it's all over. The important thing is that you are not dead. Be careful next time, okay? By the way, my name is Lu Senior. Hey! What's your name?" "Puff. Wu. Ah. I don't understand. I'll just call you Ziobai." Unicorn's Mind? Chapter 78. Under the influence of the healing light, Lu Sen resonated with the unicorn and was actually able to feel the other's thoughts. However, Lu Sen thought that the name Xiaobai was easy to understand, simple and memorable. "I was too lazy to come up with a name, and decided on this name regardless of the unicorn's resentful look." After comforting Xiaobai, who had truly escaped death, Lu Sen greeted Hagrid and introduced him to the name of his new friend. Hagrid was very familiar with unicorns, and he would occasionally see them from a distance when he was on patrol. Otherwise, he wouldn't have picked up so many high-quality unicorn tail hairs. In terms of naming, his level is the same as Lu Sen's, so he didn't care much about the name Xiaobai. The hound is called Fang, and the three-headed dog Fluffy means furry. Some translations simply call it Fluffy. However, Aragog's name is very poetic. It is taken from the name of a girl in Greek mythology. She was jealous of Athena because of her skill in weaving, and was turned into a spider by Athena. It is estimated that someone else helped him to come up with this name, or he saw it while looking up information. What Hagrid cares about is the gully cut by Lu Sen. He knew Lu Sen was capable and destructive, but he didn't expect it to be so horrible. It seems that his old house was not wronged. This is much more fierce than that time. However, Hagrid was still very happy to see that Lu Sen and the other two were safe and sound and that the unicorn was saved. He introduced the centaurs to Lu Sen. "This is Bane, Ronan, and Ferencher." Lu Sen shook hands with them one by one and pondered the information about the centaurs. Centaurs are a proud and stubborn species, and there have been many changes in history as to whether they are humans or animals. In the 14th century, centaurs were classified as animals because the then president of the International Confederation of Magic, Bulldog Muldoon, believed that all two-legged intelligent creatures were human. As a result, mermaids and centaurs were excluded, while strange creatures such as ball-diving birds, elves, and banshees who like to eat children were allowed to run around freely in the Ministry of Magic. This is undoubtedly a ridiculous and crude classification method. Muldoon's next president believes that the criteria for determining a human should be, anyone who can speak human language is a human. As a result, trolls, martins and goblins who could speak 2 or 3 words continued to cause trouble in the Ministry of Magic. The centaurs who could speak human language refused to join the ranks of humans because they felt unfair for their mermen friends. Female mermaids could speak human language on the surface of the water, but not in the water, so they were not classified as humans. It wasn't until 1811 that a reasonable division was made. A person was any creature sufficiently intelligent to understand the laws of magical society, and to bear some share of responsibility in the making of those laws. But the centaurs had already developed a rift with the wizards, disdaining to associate with them and only wanting to manage their own affairs. They stubbornly refused the identity of humans and demanded to remain as animals. Soon after, the mermaids also made the same request. Interestingly, the Ministry of Magic still maintains a centaur liaison office in the zoological division of the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, but no centaurs use it anymore. Everyone who works in the Ministry of Magic knows that if any unlucky person is assigned to this office, it means he is not far from being fired. It was the first time for Lu Sen to see centaurs. He felt that they were all strong and powerful. Lu Sen suddenly had an idea: do centaurs sleep standing up like horses or lying down like humans? While his imagination was running wild, the 3 centaurs were looking at Lu Sen and the unicorn behind him in shock. Hagrid once talked about how these centaurs believed in the omens brought by the stars very much. They were mysterious all day long and knew a lot of things but always spoke ambiguously, leaving you to guess for yourself. But they are not bad-hearted. When Hagrid is bored in the Forbidden Forest, they always show up and talk to him. After the horsemen greeted Lu Sen, they all nodded and bowed to Ziobai. However, Ziobai stomped his horse's hooves a little angrily and ignored them. Lu Sen read a surge of anger in Ziobai's heart, as if the centaurs had left it to die without saving it. These arrogant people who believe in fate can really do it. They will get predictions from the stars and believe in them without a doubt. They had predicted the death of the unicorn and the return of Voldemort long ago, but they believed in fate and chose to stand by and watch. But not all centaurs are so old-fashioned, there is also an outlier among them. Ferencher, the horse with a silver mane, stepped forward with a guilty look on his face. He said to the unicorn Ziobai, "I'm sorry for not helping you when you were injured. We are all very happy to see you return." At this time, Bane on the black horse said, "We can't fight against the omen of fate. Mars is very bright tonight. You should have died. I don't understand why this happened." Lu Sen was a little displeased, and immediately retorted, "Haven't you heard that my fate is in my own hands? Living according to the stars step by step, what's the difference between you and a puppet?" Bane and another red horse, Ronan, were stunned by Lu Sen's words, but a gleam of light flashed in Ferenchur's eyes. Ferenchur stepped forward and said, "Do you know who you are fighting? Do you know who is so eager to regain his life?" Bane and Ronan immediately said anxiously, "Ferenchur, what are you doing? We swore an oath. We can't reveal the secret. What's more, they are human beings." Lu Sen said indifferently, "Heaven's secret? You are not the only ones who can predict the future. I can do it too. Is it rare? And I know who it is, Tom Riddle." Hagrid was the only one present who was horrified, the others had no idea what this name was. Lu Sen chuckled and continued, "The one I just chopped was Tom's subordinate. Tom's lingering soul was lying on him. Oh, you may have heard of Tom's nickname, Voldemort." This time everyone was shocked. The centaurs stamped their hooves on the ground nervously. Hagrid, Ron, and Malfoy couldn't help shivering. Harry's eyes widened and his fists clenched tightly. Voldemort was the guy who killed his parents. That guy was actually Voldemort. The centaurs were shocked by Lu Sen's bold statement of Voldemort's name and identity. They all kept silent and looked at each other. The centaurs all respect the strong. Lu Sen demonstrated his powerful strength. He not only reversed the fate of the unicorn but also saw through all the truth, which made them admire and curious even more. Lu Sen's battle didn't last long, but the damage he caused was staggering. There were still flames spreading on the trees not far from the people. If left unchecked, it would easily cause a forest fire. So Lu Sen and several other young wizards started to put out the fire under Hagrid's organization, and the centaurs also contributed their efforts. By the time everyone finished their work, it was almost dawn. "Little White, if you get into trouble, come find Hagrid. He'll help you. I'll be there too." "Okay, okay. I've beaten the bad guys away. Don't be afraid." After saying goodbye to the unicorn and the centaur, they left the Forbidden Forest. Lu Sen did not clearly state Chi Luo's identity, but only told them that the masked guy looked a bit like a school teacher. Hermione immediately determined that it was Snape, who was the most likely suspect. Lu Sen was too lazy to explain to him. He wanted to see how Chi Luo was doing tomorrow. When Lu Sen made a shocking strike, Ron and Hermione in the distance saw it immediately, but they were not worried about the safety of Lu Sen and Harry at all. Because in their opinion, nothing could escape the lightning sword. But afterwards, another person was very scared and worried about it, the fireball dragon. That is Ginny. The girl didn't sleep the whole night, waiting for news from Lu Sen and Luo En, but no one replied until dawn. After they returned to the dormitory, Ron and Harry fell asleep, while Lu Sen thought about his experiences that night to see if there was anything he had missed. Just then, Ginny called. Lu Sen covered himself with the quilt and whispered, "Hey? You haven't slept yet? What time is it?" Ginny's angry voice came from the other side. She also lowered her voice and said, "Do you know what time it is? When did you come back? I thought you were eaten by the troll." "Ha ha ha. Who told you there are giant monsters in the Forbidden Forest? It doesn't matter if there are. I can kill them with one sword. We just returned to the dormitory. I will tell you about what happened in the Forbidden Forest when it's daybreak." But Ginny persisted, "Isn't it daybreak now? I want to hear it now." "Hey! No way! I'm so sleepy. Please let me catch up on some sleep." "Tisk! I don't care. Didn't I sleep too? Tell me now. Otherwise I'll send a message to the group saying you're bullying me." "Humph!" Defeated by Ginny, Lu Sen shook his head helplessly and chuckled, all right. Then I'll tell you the story of how I fought the noseless monster in the Forbidden Forest and how I heroically saved Xiao Bai." Half an hour later, Lu Sen's eyelids were already trembling, and the occasional exclamations and giggles from the other side gradually quieted down, leaving only the sound of soft breathing. Lu Sen showed a triumphant smile and whispered, "Good night." "Oh no, it's already daybreak." Then, have a good sleep, you annoying fireball dragon. Putting the phone next to the pillow, Lu Sen fell into a deep sleep accompanied by the breathing sound of the other end. Chapter 79. Although he spent a whole night in the Forbidden Forest, Lu Sen benefited a lot from the resonance with the unicorn. Not only has the physical fitness improved, but also the mental strength and magic power have increased a lot. Even though the cat chatted with Ginny for a long time in the bed, Lu Sen was still the first person to get up in the dormitory. Since it was Saturday, Lu Sen didn't wake up Harry and Ron, and let them sleep until noon. When they went to the auditorium for lunch, Lu Sen secretly glanced at the teacher's seat. The 8th level actor Chi Luo appeared unharmed. Except for the bandages on his hands, there was no flaw. He told others that it was because he accidentally knocked over a pot of incense used to drive away ogres, but only Lu Sen knew that it was the aftermath of his thunder flame lightning sword that burned him. In addition, Lu Sen also found that the other party's steps were a little staggering. Lu Sen could only hold back his laughter and watch his nose with his eyes and his heart with his nose. Seeing that Dumbledore did not take any action, Lu Sen also pretended to know nothing and continued to review and prepare for the exam as usual. People are accustomed to what happened to Quirrell, because it is too normal for Quirrell, who is not good at anything and speaks incoherently. With only a few days left before the final exam, Lu Sen still did not put all his energy into memorizing questions and reviewing. Because he also needs to hurry up and upgrade his equipment. The battle in the Forbidden Forest filled him with a sense of crisis and made him clearly realize the shortcomings of his own strength. The application of magic and the reserves of knowledge are far from enough. Even with the Thunder Flame Lightning Sword with amazing lethality, it is impossible to kill a real master with one strike. Lu Sen thought that no one in the world except Dumbledore could resist the lightning sword, but Quirrell did. Maybe it was because he had someone behind him? After thinking carefully, Lu Sen discovered a detail, that is, the shield summoned by Quirrell was about to be broken, but after he used the blood of the unicorn to strengthen it, he actually resisted the Thunder Flame Lightning Sword for a short time. When the first round of magic gunfire was fired, Lu Sen, Harry and Malfoy caught the opponent off guard. They were hit by so many bullets, but nothing happened to them. The key may also lie in unicorn blood. This magical creature is holy and pure. Its blood can give people who drink it a huge amount of vitality. It can not only slow down aging, heal injuries, but can even stop death for a short time. Of course, the side effects are also terrible. From the moment your lips touch the unicorn's blood, you will be cursed. From then on, your life will be worse than death, and you will only have half your life left. Unicorns can be said to have the spirit of heaven and earth, almost equivalent to the Kylin of China. They are auspicious creatures. They are full of treasures. Even their fur can be made into magic wands. The abundance of magic power is evident. Not to mention the blood of a unicorn. Under the command of his master, Quirrell drank the blood of the unicorn. Although he only had half his life left, the magic power that had not yet been absorbed could still quickly heal his injuries. The unicorn blood on the ground was also filled with a huge amount of magic power. After being transformed by some kind of black magic, it became a strange shield with extremely strong defensive power. Thus, it blocked the power of the Thunder Flame Lightning Sword for a short period of time. After figuring this out, Lu Sen still did not relax his vigilance. At that time, Quirrell had just finished drinking the unicorn blood and was enduring the pain brought by the curse. So his magic level was disturbed. Then Quirrell in his normal state must be more difficult to deal with. After this actual combat, Lu Sen realized the current shortcomings of the magic firearm. For the sake of his life, he must upgrade it. However, Lu Sen had to do the upgrade himself. Cedric was studious, but the twin brothers were usually not serious and studied hard before the exam. Besides, the exam is in a few days, and Lu Sen really can't explain why he needs to strengthen his weapons. Dumbledore Lu Sen, the only one who knew the whole story, failed to catch him several times, and the number of uses of the Thunder Wand has reached the bottom. Time flies, and the day of the final exam is here in a blink of an eye. During the written examination, special feather pens for answering questions were placed on the table. Each one was cast with an anti-cheating spell, so the young wizards had no choice but to answer the questions honestly. Lu Sen didn't need to cheat, but he was used to using the Lu-style ballpoint feather pen he made, and it really drove him crazy to use a dip feather pen again. After leaving the examination room, the young wizards all breathed a sigh of relief, especially Hermione, who kept chattering about the contents of the examination paper. This made Ron and Harry, who had finally managed to get through it, feel upset, as if there were more than 100 flies flying over their heads. Fortunately, Lu Sen changed the topic in time and started talking about Harry's invisibility cloak, which was returned to him by someone unknown. When Harry returned from the Forbidden Forest, he found the invisibility cloak neatly folded and placed on his bed, with a note saying, "Just in case." Lu Sen certainly knew that this was arranged by a certain unnamed principal. Fortunately, this topic successfully saved Harry and Ron, and made Miss Know-It-All no longer nervously study the contents of the test paper. In addition to the written test, several important subjects have practical exams. Professor McGonagall asked the young wizards to turn a mouse into a snuff bottle. The more exquisite the result, the higher the score. If the result still had a mouse whisker or tail, points would be deducted. When it was Lu Sen's turn, he first greeted Professor McGonagall respectfully, and then handed over the Thunder Wand. When he got it back in his hand, the Thunder Wand was no longer sealed, and it once again turned from a learning machine into a fighter. Before Lu Sen could feel the excitement for a while, he heard Professor McGonagall's urging cough. Lu Sen hurried back to the topic, and thought carefully about what the most exquisite snuff bottle in his memory looked like. Then his thoughts went back to his previous life, to the beautiful artworks in museums and treasure appraisal programs. After coming up with the idea, Lu Sen's eyes lit up, and he cast a transformation spell on the mouse on the table. A beautiful arc of electricity hit the little mouse, and under the effect of magic, the mouse twisted and turned into an exquisite Chinese snuff bottle in an instant. When it comes to cultural relics, China is an expert among experts. With thousands of years of history, there are so many royal relatives, so many wealthy businessmen and princes, and so many people who have both money and free time. When they have nothing to do, they study porcelain antiques, flowers and birds. There are so many skilled craftsmen in China, and their works are ingenious. Taking the snuff bottle exam? That means you've found a professional match. Haha. Lu Sen felt that the Chinese snuff bottle he had conjured was perfect. Not only was the style exquisite, but it also had beautiful paintings on it. He. Have you seen this before? This is a sure thing. But after looking at it for a while, Professor McGonagall's smiling face revealed a complicated expression, and finally she frowned and gave the same score as Hermione. Lu Sen. Is the picture of the 7 fairies playing in the water too cool? But it's very delicate. Lu Sen showed a flattering look and said, "Dear Professor McGonagall, you see, it's the end of the semester, how about I remove the seal on my wand?" Professor McGonagall rolled her glasses, waved her hand, and said, "Go to the next test." Lu Sen nodded excitedly and said happily, "Okay. Thank you, Professor. I will definitely not get into trouble. Study hard and make progress every day." But he hadn't walked a few steps when he heard Professor McGonagall say calmly, "Professor Flitwick's examination room is next door. He will reseal it after the exam." Lu Sr. Professor Flitwick's exam task was to make a pineapple tap dance across the desk. Lu Sen still showed his impeccable kind smile, thinking in his heart how to satisfy the professor. So he first made the pineapple grow hands and feet, and then performed a difficult Russian tap dance. He walked with his hands on his hips, did some squats, jumped and stretched his legs, which made Professor Flitwick laugh and praise him repeatedly. After getting a perfect score, Lu Sen's smile froze instantly, because Professor Flitwick summoned his wand into his hand without knowing when. "Professor, please show mercy," Lu Sen said anxiously. However, Professor Flitwick's hands did not stop moving, and after a few strokes, he had sealed it again. However, he looked at it for a few more times before returning it to Lu Sen. "Use it well, Mr. Lu Sen," Professor Flitwick said with a wink. Lu Sen walked out of the examination room with a sigh. His appearance made Ron and Harry, who were about to enter, swallow their saliva. They thought that even Lu Sen didn't get a good grade, so how difficult must the examination be? After taking the Transfiguration and Charms exams, they had to brew a forgetfulness potion in front of Snape. Snape was hovering behind the little wizards throughout the whole process, causing the little wizards' brains to go blank as they were already nervously trying to recall the recipes and operating steps. However, Lu Sen, Harry and Malfoy were not the ones who were nervous. Lu Sen often dealt with Snape and they had a cooperative relationship, so he was not embarrassed. The Malfoy family has a good relationship with Snape, and this guy has a good talent for potions and loves to study this subject. Then it was Harry's turn. Snape even coughed quietly to remind him of the little mistake he made when making the potion. When the last subject, History of Magic, announced that papers should be submitted. All the young wizards couldn't help but cheer out loud. The exam was finally over. Next, everyone can happily relax in school for a week, and then it will be summer vacation after the results are announced. Lu Sen did not go for a walk with Harry and the other two to the Black Lake to enjoy the breeze, or play with the giant squids in the lake with his twin brothers. He's going to see the headmaster. The wand usage must be recharged. Chapter 80. I don't know where old Deng has gone again. Lu Sen returned empty-handed and regretted not giving Dumbledore a magic phone, so that he wouldn't be unable to find him at the critical moment. But when he returned to the dormitory, he saw Harry and Ron with serious faces, and Hermione who visited the men's dormitory again. Why are you so serious? The exams are over. Lu Sen had actually guessed the reason in his heart. He wanted to make a few jokes to lighten the atmosphere, but was interrupted by Harry. Lu Sen. The Philosopher's Stone is in danger. Harry said with a worried look on his face. After listening to their stories, Lu Sen understood that when he went to see Dumbledore, they were not idle either. Mainly Harry, who had a flash of inspiration and thought of Hagrid's dragon boy Norbert. Who would go around with illegal dragon eggs and lose a bet with Hagrid? Under the indirect questioning of several people, Hagrid told everything that happened. He had not yet realized that the hooded man who gave him the dragon egg had discovered the weakness of the three-headed dog. As long as some music was played, the three-headed dog would fall asleep. Knowing that the three-headed dog had lost its function, the three people hurried to find the principal, but none of them knew where the principal's office was. Who knows where the principal's office is? The first person they thought of must be Lu Sen. Unfortunately, none of the people who just came out of the examination room brought a magic phone. I happened to meet Professor McGonagall at that time, and after asking, I learned that the headmaster had gone to the Ministry of Magic for some business. Several people suddenly panicked. For those who wanted to steal the Philosopher's Stone, wasn't this a godsend opportunity? After saying this to Lu Sen, Harry's face turned pale. He made up his mind and said solemnly, I will go to the three-headed dog tonight and try to steal the Philosopher's Stone first. Ron exclaimed, You're crazy. We've already lost too many points. Hermione also advised, You will be expelled. But Harry could not help shouting, I don't care about being expelled. Voldemort wants to get the Philosopher's Stone. He wants to be resurrected. He is the one who killed my parents. How can I stand by and watch? If Voldemort is resurrected, the entire wizarding world and even the entire world will fall into darkness. Our Hogwarts will no longer exist. Lu Sen quickly interrupted, Don't get excited, Harry. It's not that serious. He's just a local terrorist at most. Ahem. What I mean is, don't worry, I will go with you. Seize the Philosopher's Stone. Destroy Voldemort. Avenge your parents. Harry was very happy that Lu Sen had joined the team. He thought for a moment and said, Let's do it the same way as before. I'll wear the invisibility cloak and you'll use the invisibility charm. Hermione also said softly, Harry, I will accompany you too. Ron said, Hey! Hermione, don't go. The three of us are enough. Of course Hermione wouldn't listen. She showed her fierce side and said, You don't think you can abandon me, do you? You idiots won't be able to handle it without me. Seeing that the three were about to get emotional, Lu Sen hurriedly said, All right. I've upgraded the weapons and equipment, let's test them out. Lu Sen thought to himself, with this little butterfly instigating him, who knows what kind of accident might happen if he stays out of it now. What is coming will come eventually, and there is no way to avoid it. It is better to prepare early. It had only been a week since the last time he fought against Chi Luo. While reviewing, Lu Sen squeezed out time to upgrade his weapons and props. He felt that when facing Chi Luo again, he would definitely be more stable, and his winning rate would be 95% without any problem. Looking at his watch, there was still some time before dinner, so Lu Sen took out the upgraded equipment. First up is the combat suit, which is lighter and thinner than the Quidditch anti-fall suit, with most of the airbags removed, but with increased magical defense. The previous version of this one was what they wore in the Forbidden Forest. In addition to being bulletproof and resistant to many common magics, it also provides targeted defense against curses and black magic. The inner layer is engraved with dense golden bell symbols and exorcism symbols. In addition, the healing symbol is drawn on the skin-fitting layer, so it can be activated immediately when injured. In fact, What Lu Sen is most worried about is not these, but that Chi Luo will take the big melon if he disagrees with him. After a burst of Avada's big melon, I don't know if these clothes that integrate Eastern and Western defensive magic can withstand it. Fortunately, Lu Sen knew the general plot. At that time, Quirrell would definitely talk to Harry. As long as Harry seized the opportunity to touch the other party's face, under the protective magic of his mother, Quirrell with Voldemort would be reduced to ashes. Therefore, their main task is to escort Harry through the numerous levels, and they don't need to take part in boss battles. However, to be on the safe side, Lu Sen took the trouble to paint defensive runes and magic all over his protective suit. In addition to protective gear, firearms have also been revised, because Lu Sen has a fear of insufficient firepower. Ever since he unlocked the Thunder Flame Lightning Sword, he has been going further and further down the path of pursuing lethality. There is nothing that the Thunder Blade can't solve. If there is, use the 40-meter broadsword mode. Even though this kind of self-confidence was shaken once by Quirrell in the Forbidden Forest, after thinking it through, Lu Sen still felt that he did not understand the illumination technique well enough. As long as he is given time, the lightning sword will definitely be able to clear the sky with one sword. If that doesn't work, there is still the magic wand self-destruct method. However, in addition to these two tricks, the high attack speed brought by firearms can effectively solve the current problems of single means and slow attack speed. So in addition to the classic shotgun style, Lu Sen also created an AK-47 version. The AK-47 can bring a higher rate of fire and more ammunition. At the same time, the speed of reloading can also be greatly improved. The design concept of the magic modification team is correct. The toy bullets store magic in a special way, and preset runes are engraved inside the gun barrel. With the successful experience of the magic spray gun, the magic modification of AK-47 also went smoothly. Let's go. Let's take you through a live fire exercise. Several people came to Hagrid's basement. After Lu Sen introduced the operation method, he gave each person a modified AK. Then he pulled the bolt and pulled the trigger at the three men with a grin. Da-da-da-da-da. Ah! After 3 screams, they realized that what hit them was not magic, but soft and bouncy little round beads. Lu Sen laughed out loud, ah ha 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 ha. The 3 of you shouted in unison just now. You look like a couple. The 3 of them were still in shock and didn't notice Lu Sen's teasing. When they opened the magazine, they found that it was not magic bullets at all, but toy soft bullets. They couldn't hurt anyone at all. The 3 men knew they were being fooled, so they silently retracted the magazines, smiled at each other, and raised their guns together, aiming at Lu Sen. What are you doing? Hey, hey, hey. We can talk if you want. He was answered by 3 evil laughs and a series of da-da-da sounds. Da-da-da. 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 Lu Sen, you guys are rebelling. Look at me dual-wielding axe.